I will be your host for today's event, and my name is Linda Ochwe. I work with Business Day. So today, our conference will be discussing on how to move the African youth forward. What can we do, and how can we fit into the times that we are facing now? The theme for today's conference will be the disruptive change, the impact on youth entrepreneurship. We have seen that COVID-19 has caused a lot of changes that we never saw coming. But then the main question and focus will be, how can we fit in? How do we make changes? And what will the future hold for us as the African youth? Today, we have gathered loads of speakers from across Africa, far and wide, to talk to us on different things that affect us as youth. How can we create ideas that are profitable and marketable? How can we survive even in these trying times, considering all that's happening now? In Africa, we have loads of issues with power, issues with resources, finance, and lots more that we will be discussing today. But we really do not want to look at the issues that are already on ground. For us, how do we find solutions to the already existing problems? How do we move from where we are and move to better places? How do we create more profitable business? How do we create youths that are passionate about what they do? Is the reason why we are having this youth conference. We strongly believe that Africa has a very large number of youth and that the population is still in the lower class of less than 45, which is why we think it's important to create forums where we can teach and impact youth positively on the right steps that they need to take to move forward. For us at African Youth Leadership Conference, we believe that gathering the youth together and like minds together to teach them stuff that can move them forward is really key. Education is also important. Information is also power, and which is why we have also brought speakers that will be teaching and impacting our lives positively. Today, we'll be having a panel session. We'll have two different keynote speakers speak to us from both Nigeria and outside. They'll be talking to us on change and talking to us about what we can do now. We'll also have a panel session on moving and having profitable or creating ideas that are marketable. So we'll be discussing how you can move your ideas forward. We'll talk about that later. But before I go further, I'd like to just talk a bit about the African Youth Leadership and Economic Summit, which is something that happens every year and has been put together from time to time by Success Right. The African Youth Leadership is the international voice and professional umbrella body of young entrepreneurs in Africa, which is endorsed by certain bodies and government agencies, such as the National Youth Council of Nigeria, African Youth Chamber of Commerce and Investment South Africa, and Business Day, which is making us the media partner. That's why we're here. We strongly believe that this is a good cause, and that we need to constantly impact the young minds by creating forums that can teach them positive things. And that's why Business Day is constantly partnered with Success on this journey. He will tell us a bit more, how long they have done this for, and the amount of people that they have impacted over the past few years. It's been amazing. The reason why we are having this conference, even at this time of COVID, which has affected lives and jobs, and a lot of things has really happened in the past 6 months, is because we want to see how we can create a forum or a community of people and like minds that can see how we can, change the narrative and also move businesses forward. I won't want to take too much of your time. I'm going to be your host and coordinating the whole event for today, which is about 3 hours. We should be done by 12. My job is to make sure that everyone keeps to their time, starts and finishes on time, and that no one exceeds. So I'll be the police of today's event. So everyone, please make sure you listen to my instruction when I say your time is up. But that's not really the issue. The issue for us today is, I hope that these 3 hours will be a time well spent. That by the end of these 3 hours today, you'll be able to, look back at your notes. For those of you out there, please bring out your pen and bring out your notepads, because a lot will be taught today. And then you'll be able to use them either in your lives or in your businesses to just see how you can move yourself forward. Without so much ado, I would like to bring Success, who will talk to us a bit about what African Youth Leadership Summit has been about for a few years. And then we'll all now bring Ernest, we'll bring Chooks, who is going to be the main speaker for today, taking us to about 30-40 minutes on his slides. Thank you for listening. and I'm glad to have you all here today.
Much, Linda. Good morning, afternoon, if you're in a Success Bright Leadership and Economic Summit. Leader have done a great job describing what we've been trying to do in this. To become very they've chosen to do. You see, one of the things that inspired my team to start off this project is the fact that, to break it down, is the fact that we have a number of youths in Africa that keeps complaining about everything. We complain about our uncle, we complain about our government, we complain about our system, and all we do is sit down and complain. So we discovered that a lot can be done to inspire these people to become productive and to see that within themselves they can rise up to the occasion and make things happen. So we started looking for ways to be able to inspire them, to talk to them first, because it starts from helping somebody realize that, look, I can do this. So reorientation was the first thing that was on our mind. That was why we started the Africa Youth Leadership Conference. And for 3 years, we have consistently run this project every quarter. As of today, we've done 10 editions of this conference already in different cities in Africa. And the vision is to make sure that we go to different places, gather people, and relate with others and be able to inspire each other. So in the last 3 years, officially in 2017, December, this project kicked off, and we will have quite a number of people join us from about 11 African countries in a physical meeting. That's the amazing thing. They keep coming to locations where we're having the meetings. This is the first time we're having a virtual conference as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's a new normal. We all can agree to that right now. So it's a good thing to have all of you gather here today on this platform. People from Kenya, people from Zimbabwe, people from Sierra Leone, South Africa, Botswana, all of you are here. So it's a great privilege I have to welcome you to this special program today. I'm so excited seeing all of you, and I thank you so much for honoring my team's invitation to come to this conference. Like Linda have already said, the theme for this conference is disruptive change, the impact on youth entrepreneurship. We were already struggling with a whole lot of things, but right now the pandemic has added to our problem. So what changes have occurred due to the crisis? How can we move from here? How does it impact what we are doing in terms of career, in terms of businesses? How is it affecting our sales, our productions, and all that? So having this at the back of the mind, we were able to gather the best of the best speakers in this room today to share their experiences. And let me remind you that one of the things we try to do at AYLES is that we don't bring in people who are professors in theory to our conferences to speak to people. We bring people who have hands-on experiences, who have practical experiences. We like to have people on our team who has failed on something and they are successful, because they are the right people that will share the next step to success with people. So today you're going to be seeing an array of hands-on speakers who are going to be talking to you from finance perspective, from agriculture, from technology, from sales, from relationship, everything. So I'm promising you that today is going to be a wonderful time and you're going to enjoy yourself. So let me not waste your time. We go right into the business. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Success Bright from Lagos, Nigeria. Linda, over to you.
Thank you very much, Success. I think you've done a fantastic job. I couldn't have asked for more. So I will just quickly give us a clue of what we should expect today, which is like a short timetable telling us who and who will be coming at what time, so you know what to expect. I've been your host. I've had the introduction. Success will be next. We'll have Mr. Chooks, who will speak to us for about 30-40 minutes. If you do have questions, please feel free to type your questions, and I will read them to him by the time he's done. We'll have Victoria come on next once Chooks is over. And after Victoria, we'll have a panel section where we're going to be discussing the topic, which is your ideas and moving your visa presentation. You can also ask questions along the line. We'll have a few minutes of closing remarks and we'll call it a day. Tomorrow will be a longer time where we'll have more panel sessions and more discussions, so you can also have more time to ask questions tomorrow. So feel free to ask any question you have today, or if you want to ask the questions tomorrow, that will be fine. But this is the schedule we have for today. So without wasting too much of your time, I will quickly read the profile for who you'll be expecting next. I'm always really very excited when I have Chooks come on board because it's never a dull moment. And I have my full notepad and 3 pens because sometimes one pen is not enough to take down everything Chooks has in his head to say. But it's going to be an interesting time where you would not be able to move from your seat. I can assure you that. And if you feel otherwise, please feel free to send a message to me, and I will have to look into the matter. But then I'm very certain. Okay, so quickly, without wasting much of your time, Chukuma is an experienced board member, transformational leader. He's versatile and well-rounded in business and financial management, with over 17 years of experience in financial control, consumer finance, strategy formulation and planning, business process development, people and performance management, and systems development and integration. Chukuma is also an alumni of said business school, University of Oxford. Is a hands-on advocate of continuous learning. For more than 6 years, he's trained accountants of professional qualification in ICANN and ACCA, helping more than 1,000 accountants secure their chartered certifications in ICANN and ACCA. He's also facilitated in dozens of training for finance and non-finance managers on business, finance, and strategy-related courses in numerous large and medium enterprises in Nigeria and the United Kingdom. Chukuma is a prolific writer and a researcher. I can agree to that. His articles on finance and entrepreneurship has been featured in numerous national daily newspapers, including Business Day and Daily. He has also been invited as lead speakers on personal finance topics at events organized by GE Nigeria, Business Day Media, House on the Rock Church, RCCG City of David Parish, and a host of others. He is a proud ambassador of the Special Foundation, which is privately funded social impact organization focused on building Africa's next set of leaders through education, with a large focus on out-of-school children in northern Nigeria. Chukuma, along with other ambassadors, have helped sponsor more than 1,000 children in summer school programs in the last 2 years. Thank you so much, Chukuma, for that. He's a gifted problem solver with the unique ability to develop and apply innovative solutions and processes and models to complex organizational problems. He possesses excellent leadership, communication, and interpersonal skills with a proven ability to perform superbly in startup projects and critical assignments. He's a people's person with a track record of inspiring people with his sphere of influence to maximize their potential. I will need to stop here so that I do not take an hour to reach my profile. This is just part of it. And on that note, I will welcome Chukuma on board with his presentation. Chukuma will be taking us through his presentation on, give me a second to read that. So Chukuma will be talking about entrepreneurship in Africa, emerging economies. So he's going to be telling us what's happening in Africa, how is it happening, what do we need to do, how do we need to fit in, and what are the things expected of us. On that note, I will invite Chukuma to have the floor. Chukuma, are you ready for us?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. I will go off now.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I trust we're all keeping safe. Brian, if you don't mind, I'll appreciate if you can put up the slides. So I'll be talking for the next 30 minutes or thereabout on entrepreneurship in Africa's emerging economy. And yeah, you can just go to the third slide or the fourth slide. You know, over the years, we've been referred to with what's some sort of a phrase called Africa Rising. Over the years, there has been the expectation that the continent becomes the next powerhouse for economic development. And indeed, I think from the early 2000s, we began to see a lot of investments come into the continent. What we see today is somewhat different. COVID-19 has very much altered the global landscape. In fact, from our social lives to our to the economies of the world, whether developed or developing. I'm sure you're all aware that there are over 9.2 million cases of COVID-19 globally. Somewhat fortunately, the health infrastructure on the continent hasn't been put to test because just about 3.5% of the global figures are on the continent, with South Africa, Egypt, and Nigeria accounting for a large percentage of the people infected. With COVID-19 comes a change in the economic landscape of the continent, and I think IMF recently pulled out suggested that two of the continent's largest economies will slip into recession. Nigeria's economy is expected to contract by 5.4%, and South Africa's is even somewhat worse. I think the estimates are about 8% for South Africa. What this means in very simple terms is that there's going to be there'll be significant job losses on a continent where jobs were even hard to come by in the first place. The continent, the poverty capital, if we were to put it in continent terms, and Nigeria, I think 3 years ago was referred to as the poverty capital of the world. So COVID-19 just makes what was already bleak even look bleaker, and it will require entrepreneurs to be at their best as they try to navigate themselves through these headwinds. Let me say this, that I have a very optimistic view, regardless of how bleak the situation or the economy is, because if anything at all, there are certain elements that can help one survive through tough times like this, right? So I'm just going to be talking quickly. First, trying to define who an entrepreneur is, or what entrepreneurship is. It's easily described as the process of designing, launching, running a new business. Typically starts as a small business, and people who do this, right, are referred to as entrepreneurs. So it's about thinking about or giving life to an idea, and then beyond it being an idea is take it from that ideation stage till that value is bought off by someone else, right? Someone else defined entrepreneurship as the art of creating a business or businesses to solve problems with real business opportunities, profitability, and in a scalable manner. One thing about entrepreneurship is very different from an NGO. The objective, or one of the prime objectives, is to create value, as evidenced by it being a profitable business and it being around for a long time. I mean, one of the challenges that we've seen with entrepreneurs, especially on the continent, is that the staying power required to remain in business in the long run has not been, I mean, we can't say it's been there, right, with the African entrepreneur, and there are very many reasons why that happens. Somewhere in my presentation, we'll discuss that. So you're an entrepreneur if you set up a business with the aim to make profits. And let me put it this way, with the aim to make sustainable profit. It's not enough for you to make profits this year or become profitable and then become unprofitable or go out of business in no time. Let me tell you a bit about the importance of entrepreneurs. And the world has an active working population of about 5 billion people. These people age between 15 and 64 years. 1 in 10 of that working population is an entrepreneur. Like my very good associate maker typically would say that if every entrepreneur can hire 9 or 10 people, the world's unemployment rate will be less than 1%, right? Because entrepreneurs in creating value are expected to create jobs. And if 1 in 10 of the working population of the world is an entrepreneur, it becomes a factor we can all consider. If we can grow our businesses in a scalable manner and create value for the societies or the environment we find ourselves, there's an opportunity that we can create more jobs. And if we do that, global unemployment will be less than 1%. AFDB suggests that Africa has the highest entrepreneurship rate globally, but it's also important to point out that it also has the highest discontinuance rate because of those elements within the continent that limit that full expression. And I'm going to talk about this towards the end. So what are the characteristics of an entrepreneur? Who is an entrepreneur? What do you see? What would you see in a person that makes him or her an entrepreneur? One, I believe strongly that you have to be self-motivated, especially on the continent. Very many times, whether you're in Uganda or in Kenya, whether you're in Nigeria or in South Africa, whether you're in Egypt or you're in Libya, the continent is characterized by those things that make us to be referred to as developing economies, whether it's poor electricity, poor road networks, lack of education, or maybe a comparatively poor pool of talent. But regardless of all these challenges, and I believe this narrative is changing, regardless of all these challenges, for you to succeed as an entrepreneur on the continent or anywhere else, you have to be self-motivated. You have to be your own light within yourself. You have to be able to kick yourself on the butt and get moving with little motivation. You have to be creative. I believe entrepreneurship is about value creation. And if you would create value that someone else is going to part with his disposable income for, there must be a creative ability on the inside of you. I believe whether you're selling bread or you're selling water, or whether you're in financial services or you're in fashion, there has to be that creativity or that creative spark in an entrepreneur that makes someone else part with his money to buy that service. You have to be persuasive, right? I mean, entrepreneurs are the ones who are like 5 in 1. So you're the strategy person, you're the marketing person. At the beginning, you're the finance person, you're the operations person. You're the one who is going at every point in the ecosystem or the value chain of your business. There's that requirement to persuade your suppliers to give you a discount, persuade your neighbors to buy your goods and your products, persuade government, persuade people, right? So an entrepreneur has to be persuasive. You have to have vision, right? You need to see beyond the now and look deep into the future and see the relevance of what you're offering in that future. You have to be versatile. I spoke about this just a while ago. You're jack of all trades. In some cases, master of all. You're able to do more than one thing. Versatility. You must have risk tolerance because, it's said that more than 9 in 10 small businesses fail within their first 2 years. And regardless of that, we still see a lot of people going into business. The higher the risk, the higher the reward is one of the statements made in business. But entrepreneurs, more importantly, are people who take, in some cases, all that they have and, take a bet against it, right? Entrepreneurs are risk takers, but again, I'll always speak to balanced risk taking or taking informed or calculated risk, like we like to say. You must be flexible. What you had in your head when you were starting the business, in very many cases, is not what you see as you go along in the execution phase. But that level of flexibility and dynamism is something that must shine through as an entrepreneur. You also have to be decisive. At the very beginning, you don't have the You don't have a complement of very many executives helping you in decision making. So your decision making has to be decisive, it has to be sharp, it has to be timely, and to the extent you can, it has to be accurate. You need to bring all the information available to you, especially at the beginning, in making the right decisions and sticking by those decisions. And it should be open to collaboration. I think competition in business is sometimes overstated. While it is relevant, I believe more in collaboration. You shouldn't be able to do everything. You should look out for areas where you have comparative advantage and let that comparative advantage shine. And where you don't, be happy to collaborate. You know, I like to say that 100% of zero is zero. So whilst you're trying to do everything, to have everything for yourself, it may not be very strategic, it may not be sustainable. So as entrepreneurs, we should learn to collaborate. Let me talk quickly about the African business environment or the African consumer market. I mean, you know, if Africa were a country, it will be 1.3 billion people we're talking about, and it's the second most populous continent after Asia. But truly, it's only a small proportion of this large population can afford to pay for anything outside, I mean, basic survival needs. Africa is a very subsistence economy. And so while we talk about the huge opportunity in human resource or in the body count on the continent, there is also that level, a very low level of disposable income. I think on the top 28 poor countries in the world, African countries account for 27 of the 28 countries. Poverty rate on the continent is 41%. In Nigeria alone, it is said that we have over 90 million people living under the poverty line. So at that, right, who can buy your product or services is limited. But then again, when you flip it, there's still a huge opportunity, right? Even within the context of the subsistence of the continent's economy for entrepreneurs to make a living. I was speaking recently at a conference, and we're talking about how essential services are critical for how entrepreneurs can survive. And there's no need for that your market, for example, isn't able to pay for. The continent is currently subsistent, and while there's significant progress being made in technology and technological advancement, the truth is that very many at times it all boils down to food, boils down to water, boils down to education, healthcare, and those very essential things. Economic development is incredibly slow, and there's a phrase used in Nigeria called stomach infrastructure. And if you're going to think of how African leaders or African economies are structured, you would realize that it is really a priority to feed and make sure that the stomach infrastructure side it takes precedence over critical development infrastructure, the things required to take the African economy out of its subsistence level into that developed economy level. I was looking at a post from one of my bosses recently, and his suggestion is that Apple has a current valuation of, I think, $1.5 trillion. The African continent has a GDP of about $2 trillion. It is estimated that in the next 2-3 years, Apple may be more valuable than Africa as a continent, you know, and that's staggering. That's one business being more valuable than a continent. And I think that should speak to us as a people. You see, entrepreneurship is about value creation, and we need to begin to break from our current subsistence mode into creating value that helps us achieve way more than the basic things of life. How do you navigate the African market as an entrepreneur. I mean, some of the things I would want to speak to is the things you should know about your business. If you're a business-to-business entrepreneur, or if you're a business-to-customer entrepreneur, if you're a business-to-business entrepreneur, your customers are asking, how long have you been in business? What experience do you have? And a lot of entrepreneurs face this, especially at the start. If you're a business-to-customer entrepreneur, your customers are very price conscious. Remember, we've spoken about the low disposable income on the continent, and so everyone somewhat is price sensitive. They may not be very specific on quality. Remember, we've talked about it being also a subsistence economy. They just want enough to keep body and soul together. So price becomes a critical thing. Another thing is, like I mentioned earlier on, the need for local collaboration to help diversify revenue is considered when you're a B2B entrepreneur. And on the continent, sadly, people would rather buy foreign brands or rather buy foreign-like or foreign-affiliated products over local products. And you would see that happening whether it's in Lagos or in Joburg or in Nairobi or in Mombasa or in Khartoum, right? It's the same principle across the continent. As a B2B entrepreneur, you may experience liquidity challenges because there may be delayed payments. But when you're a B2C customer, there's a high chance that your transactions will be cash sensitive. So it will be cash specific because you're buying, the very essentials of life. I mean, before COVID-19, right? A B2B entrepreneur will be faced on having a decent office location because people want to place relevance on where you are, where's your office, where can we meet you? There is that validity that an office gives to you. I think that's going to change with COVID-19. But gradually, we are seeing for B2C, a lot of e-commerce activities are growing across the continent. We are seeing a lot of technology going towards the e-commerce space, and marketplaces, online marketplaces are being created. Lastly, for B2B customers, referrals are the fastest way to build trust with prospects. And for B2C customers, businesses, there will be need for you to spend a lot on your marketing to get customer trust and also to get top of mind awareness. I'll speak quickly on 8 common headaches. Allow me define it that way of an African entrepreneur. And these really are the pain points we face as a people. One is capital and the high cost of capital on the continent. Again, this is something that is a deterrent to doing business because you've not been able to create or build wealth or save enough, but at the same time, you're not able to access capital to even bring your dreams to life. So capital constraint and high cost of funding plague the African entrepreneur, regardless of what country you are. And indeed, I'll dare ask if you're here listening to me and you have cheap cost of funds and easy access to capital in your country, please let me know. I'll be very happy to exploit that. I think human resources on the whole is another problem with the structure of the world and with the much younger people today. First, the quality of human resource, the level of dedication of human resources sometimes plagues the entrepreneur. Remember, as an entrepreneur, you're starting or you're trying to create something, you don't have access to all the money in the world or liquidity. And very many times, there's a lot that needs to go in from the entrepreneur to his employees to get their loyalty or get them to stay. So the African entrepreneur is plagued with high staff turnover. Everyone's looking for a bigger dream, and not everyone is patient enough to grow with the vision of a startup or of an entrepreneur. There's a perpetual rising cost of operation. I mean, inflation in Nigeria has been on the ascendancy for a few months on ending. I think it's currently at 13%. And this is one of the better inflation rates across the continent. I mean, we have cases of Zimbabwe, cases of Ghana, you know. So it's the cost of things keeps rising, and the disposable income of the people somewhat keeps falling as the continent all appears to be getting poorer every year. But the cost of living is rising. So cost of doing business is growing at a faster rate than your revenue growth, right? And then government will not stop taxing and bringing all forms of levies or charges. I mean, so we have excessive government-related charges. In Nigeria, you have state government charges, local government charges, there's taxes to pay to the federal government. And at the beginning, these payments, really, really draw on the liquidity of the entrepreneur. Logistics, transportation is a difficult thing across the continent. Very few countries have good roads for you to ply. You have little or no rail networks. Air freight is somewhat expensive, and the cost of moving things from point to point adds to the ultimate price the consumer is paying for it. And it's government's responsibility to provide infrastructure and an environment that makes business, successful. And I'm hopeful as the years unfold, as a people, we can elect the right kind of leaders who focus on the kind of things that bring development to the continent. Less emphasis on the politics, and real emphasis on building a continent that we'll be proud of. Power is another problem that we have. There's epileptic power supply across the continent, and where you even have it, it's expensive, and it's not the unit cost makes the final output of the entrepreneur expensive. Again, I've spoken about this earlier. There is a small pool of world-class talent. Education is not getting the desired attention it deserves across the continent, and people make businesses, survive. People are business, and once the quality of thought, the quality of thinking, the quality of the people in the organizations or in those businesses isn't world-class, it becomes nearly impossible to compete. Foreign exchange risks, the level of devaluation, that happens from country to country is very unsustainable, and we keep on losing value. And you see, everything is tied to the development framework of the continent that is really poor at the moment. And these things lead to headaches for entrepreneurs today. I just want to quickly talk on how you can start your business, your own business. And I like to see this from two perspectives. I hope I'm doing well with time. Not everyone will be able to conceptualize and manage a business. So you have the entrepreneur who is a manager of his business, and you're going to have entrepreneurs who invest in people, invest in people, and are patient enough to see those ideas of those people come to life. Let me quickly talk about the owner, manager, entrepreneur. I typically advise that we invest in businesses that we are passionate about, where you have the passion and talent from. I typically recommend that you have some form of apprenticeship. Don't just take the idea out of school and jump into it. There's a lot to learn, and you should be, humility is a critical ingredient in entrepreneurship. You should be patient and humble enough to learn, so that when you start yours, you're not going to suffer a lot of losses. I believe, to be an owner, manager, entrepreneur, you should understand that business, its risks, and the things that make you successful, right? You should hire a team that can work without you, or get people who can buy into your vision, people who can, carry it like it's theirs, because you can't do everything by yourself. You need the support of people, but in those early days, you should get the right kind of people. If you're going to be an investor type SME entrepreneur, you should learn as much as about that business you're putting your money into. Ensure the business is structured, no matter how small it is. Invest money that you do not need returns urgently in, because entrepreneurship is a journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It typically takes true businesses maybe 3 to 5 years to become profitable. So if you're investing in it, know it's not for the short run. If you're looking for short run investments, then putting it in startup ideas is maybe not one way to look at it. And try and get a good price when you're buying equity in a startup business. Yeah. Let me quickly talk about the 7 steps you should consider when you're starting up a business. First, I believe we should identify the problem. It's important to know what problem you're trying to solve, and I think you should think about the people who will buy that solution from you and think of a very cool way to present it. Third, I believe everyone should document their thoughts in a structured way via a business plan. And the fourth point is you should test your idea on a small scale to validate whether it's going to be acceptable in the wider market, or whether it's going to be sustainable in the long run. You see, the first 4 stages I've spoken about, when it speaks to how do you fund your startup idea, these first 4 stages require very little capital, and I typically advise that you use your own money or money from friends and family at this point in time. Identifying problem, a lot of the things that pertain to the first 4 stages are cerebral in nature, and require little capital. So you should look for that kind of money yourself. My step 5 is that you evaluate step 1 to 4 again, and make sure that it aligns with your initial thoughts, and where there is a gap, you put those improvements in place. Step 6 talks about scaling that idea, having made the necessary adjustments. And step 7 talks about growing the business. I think for step 6 and 7, at that point, you can begin to get equity participants or bring people to participate with you. And as the business starts generating cash flows in a sustainable way, you can get debt. Right now, every business needs capital in its early stages, but where you're sourcing that capital and what structure, plays a very important role in determining the success or otherwise of the business. I mean, I like the words of the American billionaire and entrepreneur Mark Cuban. He says only morons will start a business on a loan. And I want to emphasize this again. Don't start your business with debt. Don't start your business borrowing money. You can borrow money when your business starts generating cash flows that you can pay off the principal and interest on. This is one of the reasons why many businesses fail, and it's important I emphasize that. So I've spoken about this, so I'll just go to the next slide. And as I begin to wrap up, I want to talk about 7 key considerations that are required to succeed as a startup, especially as we think as entrepreneurs, especially as we think about growing the continent, taking advantage of the opportunities the continent provides us. The first thing for me is getting your team right. I believe people are the most important resource in an organization, and from the very get-go, I believe you should get the right people. I dare say if you're not getting the right people, once you identify they aren't the best fit for your organization, you find an interesting way of letting them go. Cost management is essential. It's important that you learn to be very conservative or very prudent when it comes to spending money. Remember, if you look at the slide before now, I said the first 4 steps, right, require you using your own money. And so I advise that you put your money, you spend your own money judiciously. Don't get excited spending on things. Sorry, you can go back to the other slide. You don't spend your money on non-value adding things or things that are not critical to the ecosystem of the business you've chosen to. One way to kill a business is running out of capital. So you must spend every penny wisely. That level of efficiency or cost efficiency is a critical requirement if you're to succeed. The third point for me is how to price. You must price right. And for me, pricing speaks to creating that top line, how you're going to generate your revenue. And if a business is set up to be profitable, the first thing you have to get right is your revenue generating capability on the top line, like some people refer to it. Within that top line is how have I priced my goods, my products and services. And while there are different mechanisms or different strategies to pricing, one common advice I would give is sell your products or services at a price that covers your costs, that at least covers all your variable costs, and where you can with a margin. Where this is the minimum it should be. There's no need selling at a loss because you're already dealing with a capital lack of capital situation. Now selling at a loss will quickly lead to a dilution of whatever financial resources you have and ultimately impact the going concern of your business. The right capital structure is also important. That's my fourth point. Capital structure, I speak to the mix of debt and equity. How much money am I bringing in versus how much money am I borrowing? A wrong capital structure, right, the wrong capital structure is one of the reasons why businesses fail. And indeed, at this point in time, even big businesses fail because of a poorly structured balance sheet. So the right capital structure is important. When do I borrow money? When do I bring in money? At what price do I borrow money? How much money should I borrow? How much money should I bring in by way of equity? When should I bring in new investors? Those conversations are essential if you're to succeed in business. I always advise that you document your operational processes. People think this as an academic exercise, but it's very important that this is how the business goes. These are the 5 steps we follow. It helps for business continuity. It helps for standardization, and it helps in endearing your organization in building a brilliant customer experience, right? So document your processes. When somebody is joining as a new team member, let him read those processes so that you can have a congruence of thinking. You can have an alignment of thoughts, with the people who work with you. And then risk management. It's important you identify risks, and you identify risks objectively. Every business is faced with risks, right? The reason why you make profit is because you're taking a structured gamble on that value, but don't take an uncalculated risk, whether it is in finance, whether it's in agriculture, whether it is in music. Every business is faced with risk, and it's the understanding of the risk environment. An understanding of the risk environment in that business is essential for one to succeed in business. And my last point is that you should learn to manage growth. Now, growth can be very deceptive because sometimes you've had a good run, and then you think the next thing to do is to scale uncontrollably. The balance, wisdom, growing organically are essential as you grow. Very many businesses today, especially in the tech world, are very valuation specific, and people just want to, start little and sell for 5x or multiples of 7. Right? I believe in organic growth, and I recommend that as an entrepreneur, you grow at the right time. Baby steps, perfect your operations, scale within your resources, and I believe you'll have in wrapping up, that the challenges we face has a very bright future. Africans are very hardworking people. Despite the odds, we are very resilient people. We've built very successful enterprises. What I think is missing is the structure and the information to help businesses become sustainable. And I think we should take advantage of the resources available to us. Think about this as a long-term play and make the most of our political system, make the most of the people we have available to us, make the most of that true African spirit. And I'm very positive at the end of the day, we'll be able to build very many successful businesses, and we'll see entrepreneurs contribute their own quota to national development and the economic prosperity of the continent. So I hope I've been able to make sense to you. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you very much. And please, guys, please keep safe. Please, and remember, COVID-19 is still out there ravaging the world. Let's do all we can to keep safe and stay alive. Thank you very much. Linda, back to you.
Thank you so much, boss. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You were extremely on point and on time. Chooks, it was nice doing business with you, I must say. Like, I didn't have to send you any message to tell you your time is up. You ended on time. You need an award for this. Thanks for managing the time. I'm grateful. Thank you. Okay,
thank you very much, Linda.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure we have learned a lot. And Chooks was trying to be as fast as possible. I know that Chooks is someone that can talk for 3 hours non-stop. He won't even drink water. But today he was extremely very cautious, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you, Chooks. I have one question for you. And then I also have some questions, from... So someone is asking, good presentation, Chooks. Thank you so much. You've done well. Do you do not advocate taking loans at the early stage, but what if a budding entrepreneur does not have any savings? What can he do?
Okay, so that, and that's the reality that we are faced with now. This is what loans suggest. With loans that don't have a moratorium or a grace period, you're forced to repay from nothing. Remember, you can only generate cash when you've added value and you have gotten an inflow of that cash.
I cannot see.
Now, very many at times, if you start a business
answer.
on debt, you're going to face crisis very early on because you don't have the cash flows to repay back the principal or interest. Now, this is what I say to entrepreneurs. If you believe so much in your idea, you will definitely have people who will listen to you. If you do not have a network of people who can help you start off, especially when you don't have savings, then the honest truth is that you may not be able to build a sustainable business. It may involve you selling personal belongings. It may involve you going an extreme way, but starting off with debt for a brand new business will kill you faster than any other way. Remember, because there is, especially when you cannot access a moratorium or grace period. So I typically would advise, just keep on refining your pitch, looking for the right guys. You can get, there are lots of people looking for money for businesses to invest in. I would suggest that you spend a lot of time looking out for such people. And as the business begins to generate its own income and generate cash flows, then you're ready for debt. Starting with debt, like Mark Cuban says, may suggest you're taking a very wrong step. And I guess it's one of the reasons why many African startups have failed within their first 2 years of existence.
So one more question. I have a few questions that I would like to ask on the schedule. Will you say that entrepreneurs are born, or would you say that they are made? That's always a question most people always ask.
Yeah, and entrepreneurs, what's entrepreneurship for me? Entrepreneurship is adding value and earning something for adding value. So yes, while for you can be born with natural abilities. You can have abilities that help you, that give you an advantage as an entrepreneur. But the truth is that you have to learn a lot of the skills to make you an entrepreneur. Your environment, your education, your experience makes you can make you a better entrepreneur. So in my view, you can be born and you can be made. But even if you're born with natural abilities, you still have to learn, put in the work to learn. You still have to make the most of it. So if you don't have natural abilities, you can also get people who have the skills that you don't have and partner with them to become entrepreneurs. But one thing I've been saying to people a lot as you grow older, especially upon retirement. So assume you retire at 50 or 50 or 60, and you're not going to get a regular job. You're left with no choice but to become an entrepreneur. And it depends on how you view entrepreneurship. I see entrepreneurship as getting paid because I created value. And especially when you leave your regular careers, you'll be left with no choice for the next 20, 30 years of your life but to become an entrepreneur. Your pensions may not be enough. For most people, it won't be enough. So you may need to get your faculties active. You may need to, even if your pension is enough, you don't want to sit idle. You would create value and want to earn from it.
So when is the best time to leave your job to start a business?
When is it? Nina, these are set of questions. When is the best time to leave your job to start a business? It's going to differ from person to person. It's going to differ, right? But what I typically advise is, if you have a job, learn to become an entrepreneur by being a very good intrapreneur. Learn the art of value creation on your job so that when you leave that job, you're able to create even better value for yourself. If you're in an organization and all you can do is say yes sir, do only what you're told without creating any added value, there's a high chance that when you start your own stuff, the art of value creation will be foreign to you and you may not succeed in it. So the best way to start your entrepreneurship journey is actually while you're in an organization. And when you learn to create value for the organization, you get rewards for it. As you get those rewards, you start building up the savings that can help you, the savings that can help you start up your own in the future. When is the right time? It will differ from person to person. It will differ from circumstance to circumstance. But one thing I like to say is that you can never be an employee forever. It's either you're told to leave the organization for very many reasons, or you leave the organization on your own. Those are two realities that will be faced with. The question is, what do you do with yourself right after that? For very many, if you saved up a lot, you can still sit and go on tours around the world for the rest of your life. But for very many people, you're left with no choice but to start creating value and earning from the value you create.
Okay. So I have a comment here. I'm reminded again not to borrow money to start any business and to document all documentables, even if it looks like academic exercise. So I think that person needs to get accounting skills. Then the other person says, however, someone may have a compelling business idea, but cannot just lay hands on funds, and the person has access to borrowed funds. What would you advise?
If you have, see guys, I think one of essential ingredients to be a successful business person is the relationships you build or the network you have. If you have a brilliant business idea, I doubt that you exist in a vacuum. In fact, if you can have access to borrowed funds, it means you have a good network, because not very many people have access to borrowed funds. But again, if the only option available to you is borrowed funds, ensure that your pricing or your business is structured in such a way that the proceeds from the business are enough to repay your principal and interest as and when due. That's what I would say. If that's the only option available to you. Make sure you're able to offer your goods and services, or make sure you're able to, the value you create is such that it can pay you enough to meet your debt obligations as and when they fall due.
Okay, I think you have done justice to this, and I must let you go. You have done well. You were early and you started on time and you kept to time. Chooks, we are extremely grateful. You have shared a lot from your knowledge and experience, and we can't thank you enough. We really do appreciate your time, and we are sure it's been a time well spent. And if we have other questions, we can always send them and email them to you. Thank you very much. I guess I'll have to.
Thanks, AYLES. Thanks, Business Day. Thanks for the opportunity. And let's keep hope alive. Thank you.
We have to. We really have to. Okay, so without taking so much of your time, since we have to stop at 12, I will quickly invite Victoria on. I guess she's, let's see. I hope you guys can hear me. So I have Victoria next, but I'll quickly read her profile and invite Victoria. Victoria will be speaking to us around how we can invest in agric and, you know, the opportunities that lie in agric for young people. Victoria, are you there? Yes, I can see you.
Yes.
So Victoria's profile is really long. I'm not sure I'm going to take everything, but I'll take part of it. So I will just start from somewhere. So Victoria holds a BA in Agriculture Economics from the University of Benin, Edo State, Masters in Business Administration, and currently pursuing Masters in Marketing and Innovation at the Metropolitan School of Business, United Kingdom. She is an experienced business development consultant with a focus on the agricultural sector and an Oracle certified administrator. Her experience has taken her to Shell Petroleum Development Company, where she worked as a system analyst responsible for implementing systems migration. She also later moved to United Global Resources Company. However, this time her work was geared towards project management. She was the project coordinator of the team of ICT trainers for Oracle and Microsoft package to many blue chip companies and schools, while Victoria's previous roles had a leaning towards information technology. Upon joining BOI/ITC, her passion for the agro-allied sector was reignited as she began to work on developing the businesses of SME in that sector. In order to successfully understand the SME space, she has undergone several trainings with London Business School, Lagos Business School, Metropolitan School of Business UK, and the Center for Development Innovation in Netherlands. She is currently the agric expert at BOI Investment and Trust Company, a subsidiary of the Bank of Industry, a fellow Institute of Management consultant, a senior member of Chartered Institute of Public Diplomacy and Management. Her passion for youth and women development has prompted her to volunteer as mentor for Cherry Blair Foundation for Women in 2014, Google Accelerator Launchpad in 2017, Lagos State Government Ready Set Work Program in 2017, International Business Accelerator, which has improved the lives of over 82 youths and women. I guess I'll take a pause here because it's really long. Without wasting so much of your time, I'm more than happy and excited to introduce this wonderful lady. I have been opportuned and privileged to work with Victoria on so many projects just in a very short time, and I cannot explain enough her passion for what she does. She's been amazing. I've learned a lot from her in just a few months, and I'm more than happy to be, having her on this conference, share from her knowledge, great knowledge on agriculture and how we can be a part of it. Victoria, you are welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Linda. This is really exciting. I'm super glad to be here this morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to the organizers. Thank you, Business Day, and thank you, Mr. Success. This morning, we'll be talking about the opportunities that are abound in the
I don't know if it's my network or your network, but we can't hear you very well, Vicky.
Okay. I will just change to another network.
Your network is fantastic. Your network is fantastic. Go ahead. Linda, check yours.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll be talking about the opportunities that abound in the agro sector. I have a slide, but I always prefer to talk from my heart because I am passionate about the sector. The slides will be sent across after this event. Mr. Chuk said something very interesting, and I'll start my conversation from there. Almost 90 million people in Nigeria live below the poverty line. However, these 90 million people must eat. During this pandemic, the need to be involved in the food sector, in the agribusiness sector, was highlighted, most especially for those that live in Lagos. We saw how the 1 million boys were raiding our streets, sending us letters telling us they're coming to our homes just to pick up food that they will eat. In other climes, we saw the supermarket, the retail shops and chains, they were empty when it came to the food section of the shop. What does that tell us? Tell us that humanity cannot survive without food. However, how come we have so much food shortage, yet we have vibrant youth in our continent? The African continent is blessed with the most resourceful set of people in the world. That has been highlighted over and over again by different articles from different media outlets on how we excel when it comes to academics, creativity, and innovation. We are also blessed with the land and the best climate that anyone can think of. However, the opportunities that are there are yet to be tapped. I will focus my conversation more on Nigeria and the opportunities that we can quickly see, because this is where I have more grasp of. If you go along the Badagry waterline, you will see a whole lot of coconuts. The trees are there, giving us good aesthetics, but we're yet to utilize those trees. We have lots of the coconut bark stopped, resulting to nuisance in the waterways. And this wonderful coconut bark can be used as cocoa pits, can be used as fiber. What are we doing with it? In Kenya, most of their planting medium is cocoa pits. In Asia, everybody is moving to cocoa pits because now farming is not the hoe and cutlasses that we're used to. Technology now drives, and innovation that drives that sector. If you want to do your seedling beds, your nursery, you need cocoa pits now if you are transplanting into an hydroponic or aquaponic system. What are we doing with this waste? How are we converting this waste into wealth? Recently, we saw the menace that happened in Okiaro. Okiaro is a community that houses over 3,000 pen for pigs. Yet we import pork ribs, pork chops, sausages, bacon into the country. Like Mr. Chuk said earlier, We prefer the imported. It is a mindset. It is our mentality. How do we change that? We need to start telling our stories by ourselves. We need to start appreciating ourselves. Okiaro was a sorry case because we had over 7 people dead as of today because they lost billions of naira. But this could have been averted if we had seen the opportunities that lies in there. The waste is where the African swine fever actually resides. The virus itself resides in the waste. And the waste can be turned into gold, into money-making ventures. Recycle the dungs into fertilizers and biofuels. What about turning that blood meal after slaughtering the blood and turn it to blood meal to sell to feed millers that require it for livestock? Going back again to the coconuts, the back of the coconuts, the peels, can be used as fiber. We import these things. What about our plantain stumps? We have lots of plantain stems. When they fall because of heavy rain, or when we finish harvesting, most times we have nothing to do with them. Yet, they can be used to produce fibers. In fact, they're the best alternative. Coconut fiber and plantain stem fiber, they're the best alternative to cotton. They are sustainable and they're environmentally friendly. Those fibers, if well treated, can be used for sanitary towels so that our girls can have access to sanitary pads. Like I said, we are so deep into the imported that we forget the important. We are the important. Anytime we import food, we've exported jobs. We've exported means of increasing our livelihood. We see on social media the cries of poultry farmers dumping thousands of crates of eggs, and yet we import egg powder. What an irony. These things are not so expensive to start, but we have just not seen the opportunities that lies in there because we're so engrossed with the beauty of the packaging that comes from outside our shores that we forget about the beauty that comes from within us as people. We export what we have to import it back as finished products. We export cocoa to import chocolates. We export shea to import shea butter, shea-based cream, shea-based soap. It is a pain that breaks every single cell and bone in my body. Because when it comes to innovation, the creative minds resides here in Africa. Talking about the COVID, we've seen how people are using herbs to treat the COVID. Yes, not yet scientifically proven, but it is a right step to the right direction. What do we do as a people? We find ways to bring down those opportunities, those creativity. I call that the crab syndrome, where nobody must get to the top. You're getting to the top will bring you down. How come when we leave the shores of Africa, we tend to grow? People say it's because the infrastructures are there. No, it's because when you get there, the survival mindset and the I must do well mindset kicks in. We need that survival mindset to kick in now in Africa, to use our raw materials to produce our own food and our own resources. Hydroponics is everywhere today in Africa. You can start your gardening from the back of your house. With that, you can sell your produce to supermarkets around you without investing so much in land. Thankfully, the YouTube channels that are available to teach us for free requires just our data. What do we spend our money on? It is good to like, follow, retweet, reshare resources of people that you like as it resonates with you. At the same time, what is your takeout from what they are saying? How do we implement this in the food sector? The food sector is crying. We need interventions. And these interventions are not going to come from people in their 60s. It comes from us in our 18, 15, 20, 30s, 40s. We need to start now. How do we start? We collaborate with each other. There are a lot of people that are looking for ways to sell their produce. You don't need to start a big digital marketplace, but you can use your social media handle to help them sell their produce. Once you are known as a reliable source, that the products that you're advertising get sold, people will continue to come to you. There is a disconnect between the rural area and the urban area when it comes to logistics. We need investors in that sector. We need the agro Uber. A lot of people are looking for where to invest, but are not willing to take the risk that is associated with the investments in the agro sector. But you see, as we are young, as we're vibrant, our resilience is high. We can take a lot of that. We can take risk with our high energy. The question is, where do we want to be? Do we want to be the net importers of food, or we want to be self-sufficient and then export? Africa is known for agriculture, but how has agriculture actually improved our livelihood? Because we do not add value to what we produce. We need to start adding value to those little things that we produce. Okiaro, the African swine fever wiped almost all, and it's going to wipe every single pig in that settlement. Because, one, when the swine fever started, there was nowhere to quickly process this pork. If they had drying businesses there, to dry the meat, or to process into bacon, sausages, and other parts, to even take the pork fats that we use for our lipsticks, our cosmetics, we would have had a whole lot of savings from that area. Today is estimated that 25 billion naira is lost in Okaro because we couldn't invest as a people less than 100 million naira there. Yes, 100 million naira, not from one person, but from a group of small entrepreneurs, starting with small processing of 3 million naira, 5 million naira, when gathered together to build a closed system, we would have made an investment of almost 100 million naira and would have saved an investment worth more than 25 billion naira. We have tomatoes, mangoes wasting at farm gates and making agriculture look like it is for the poor. Yet, some of the richest men in the world got their money from agriculture. Where do we want to be? Do we want to continue exporting our sweat, or we want to export our value? I would like to stand at the point where we export value by adding value to our agricultural produce. Without taking much of your time, because I am known to talk a lot, I would like to stop here and get feedback from the participants. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Victoria. It was good having you here. Hello, Linda. Hello, Linda.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay,
Is
so
there something
please
wrong with
round up the
Victoria's
session.
network?
No, she just ended. She wants to get feedback from participants, from you.
Okay, I wasn't hearing her very well. I think it's my network. I was actually trying to change my network. There was just actually system.
Oh.
Okay. So I didn't really get loads of questions for her if she's still there. I only have someone asking, inviting for investment, is it advisable for a small holding business? I got that one question. I don't know if it's for her, for here. And then someone said, I didn't get what she said. Is it cocoa pills or cocoa feeds? Then this is present at Okaro Town from Adenike. I think that question is for Victoria. Victoria, are you still there?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay, so just 2 questions for you, and then we will move to the next.
Okay, so cocoa pits, not peels. Pits is a processed part of the back of your coconuts, your coconut peels. It's processed, you allow it to stay in water for a while, it decomposes and forms into a soil-like material. So you can use it to plant and add nutrients to it. It has a porosity that allows for the roots of the plant to expand properly and at the same time absorb nutrients. So your nutrient and the rate at which the nutrients seeps out of the roots is slower compared to soil. So on what is present on Okaro Town, I do not quite understand the question, but I'll just speak about Okaro. Okaro is going through swine fever African swine fever pandemic at the moment, which has killed over 300,000 of their pork, their pigs. And it is disheartening, but for me, it is an opportunity for investors to come in, for the insurance companies to come into that sector, for those in the renewable energy and recycling business to also invest in that sector. And for those that want to do processing from pig into other components like the pork fat that is used for the cosmetic industry, uh, for the food, the bacon, the sausage, the pork ribs, and other parts of the meats that you can utilize. And also for the blood, they can be dried as blood meal, which will be sold to different feed milling companies, livestock feed milling companies. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, we have another question.
You have more questions, please, Victoria. So here's my question for Victoria. How will I think, go about egg powder, the engines and the like? Someone is asking about going into that sector.
Okay, so let's also ask this other question before you respond. Someone else said there are a lot of talk about investing in agriculture. However, there is little support in comparison to other sectors on how to get started. What are avenues to learn how to invest or start an agribusiness?
Okay, so let me take the first question from Linda. Linda, if I got you correctly, you were asking about the investment opportunities. Did I get that correctly?
Yeah, she said, how will I go about egg powder, the engines and the like? She wants to go into egg powder business.
Okay, so for egg powder business.
I'll read the other two questions for you.
Okay, for egg powder business, the first thing you need to do is to be within a cluster where you know that there are a lot of manufacturers of the eggs. So you can use both the crack and the whole eggs. So it depends on what you want to settle in. The Indian and Chinese and Germans, they have the drying machine. It's a dehydrating machine that you need to buy to start up. So you buy the dehydrating machine. It dehydrates the egg itself and into the powder. So you have two versions. So you have the egg powder that is used in the pharmaceutical and the confectionery industry, and you also have the eggshell that can be dried into calcium that is also used for the pharmaceutical, the feed production companies in the country or worldwide. So yes, it's mostly a drying machine, that dehydrating machine that you need to produce the egg powder. There's a little bit of technicalities around it, but we can find a way to send you some videos and some, if you share your email, some videos and some manufacturers of the equipment, so you can have a robust conversation with them. However, the snag is you need to understand that the glut is between a certain period in the country, which is between March and early July. That's why you have egg glut. So your production must be able to mop up egg gluts within that time. So you need a lot of cash flow, mop up eggs at that period where it's at the low, so that you can be competitive with the imported one. Then have some traceability so that you don't have those bringing eggs to your factory with antibiotics content in the eggs. Then for Mr. Mr. Success, you asked a story about, asked a question about the support. There are a lot of support in the agri sector, a whole lot of support. Just on the internet, when it comes to training, there are lots of free trainings from development partners, whether real time or online. When it comes to financial support, there are a lot of grants also, although most of them are targeted for women and youths, but there are a whole lot of grants out there. You can just do a Google alert. So there's a way you go to Google and do an alert. So anytime there's a grant opening, you set it. Anytime there's a grant opening, it alerts you and comes into your Gmail. So you're able to see the opportunities in good time and have enough time to prepare for those grants and prepare your documentation. However, when it comes to funding, like Mr. Chuk said, it is critical for you. I always preach operational integrity. When you have what we call operational integrity, it will be easy for you to attract investors and funders. So agriculture, you need to first bootstrap with your own money, no matter how small it is, from the back of your house. Learn from the ropes, understand the market. Yes, there's market out there, but you have to search for the market and get the market before you get into agri business, so that you don't get trapped. And because you are trapped, you're forced to sell your produce because they are the shelf life is very short. You're forced to sell your produce way below your cost of production, just so that you don't lose out entirely. Bank of Industry supports agribusinesses. Nexim, Bank of Agriculture. In the recent time, we've seen how vibrant NISAL Microfinance Bank has been when it comes to supporting agribusinesses in the country. So there are a lot of supports. Thank you very much.
Okay, so two more questions, then we go off. One person, Nameka Ezekiel, said, will your slide cover the different agri products and the investment opportunities they have? The next question, some of the opportunities you listed in agriculture seem not to be in the public domain. I'm just hearing about the Caro and the food gate for the first time now. Please, is there any community or channel where the problem opportunities is being talked about?
Okay, yes, my slides covers some of the opportunities and the opportunities I highlighted. It cannot cover all the opportunities because the value chain is very vast. That would be like 100 and something page, like maybe 1,000 pages. But however, I have tried to highlight some unique opportunities that are yet to be tapped, but are money attracting businesses in the country and with little investment to start up. Yes, my slide speaks to that. Then in terms of where to know about all these opportunities, for me, it depends on what you're reading. But there are a lot of this information out there, but you can follow us. You can follow me on my LinkedIn or my social media pages, and also follow my campaign story called The African Farmer Story. It highlights all the opportunities within the sector for you to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was so beautiful having you, Victoria. Thank you so much for believing in us and the project and for sharing such an invaluable things with us today. We're looking forward to engaging you often as we try to move this project forward and engaging the rest of Africa, bringing them up to speed with things we can do with ourselves. Thank you so much, Victoria. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It's been an amazing time with you, always learning about Agric. We can't thank you enough. You have done a very good job. I'm sure that if people have questions, they can send it in, and then we can always send you an email and you can respond to them, or they can follow you at the African Farmers or Support for SME Initiative on social media, on LinkedIn, and you will look into that. So without wasting so much time, since we really have just like an hour and a few minutes left, we'll be going into the panel session. And I will just quickly want to introduce the people that will be on the panel for about 30 minutes. We'll be talking about funding your ideas for growth and expansion. They say, oh, so someone is asking, Success, please reply, what is Victoria's full name so they can follow her surname, please, for them. So we will have Vera Osuji on this panel. I would also have Ernest on this panel, and I will have Vusi. So I'll just read quickly the profile for Vuyusa Okweba. Is a partner at Pan-African Innovation Firm, HYBR Group, and also a co-founder at equity crowdfunding platform Uprise. Has spent the past 8 years building ecosystem in media as television host and business columnist. We are very happy to have you here. He's from outside Nigeria. Thank you very much. I'm sure Success is from Kenya, right? Or South Africa? He didn't say that here in his profile. We also have Mr. Ernest Akin Lola, the MD and CEO of, he's from where? South Africa, right? South Africa. Let me take note of that. Thank you. So Ernest Akinola, the MD and CEO of Right Instinct Limited, an innovative business consultancy and personal development platform. He is a leader with a strong focus on helping companies leverage digital technology to grow their businesses locally in Nigeria, Africa, and internationally. He is regularly invited to provide insights in this area and has developed keynote speeches at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and the National Association of Small Medium Enterprise. He's a titan of the telecom industry with over 25 years top flight experience, MD and CEO of Entel, formerly Nitel. Ernest Akinola is here. Ernest has held senior positions on a global basis in blue chip organizations, including CEO at Lycra Mobile UK, CMO Etisalat Nigeria, Business Development Director at BlackBerry Nigeria, Director Strategic Partnerships at T-Mobile UKEE, Head Commercial Partners at Virgin Mobile UK. He has worked really across the globe. Owning to NSX Enterprise and Experience, he sits on the board of some Nigeria's most innovative companies, providing practical advice, guidance, and oversight. An accomplished startup coach, Mr. Akinola led the inaugural entrepreneur bootcamp at the World Bank, Washington, D.C. in 2014. He holds a first degree in economics from UEL, UK, an MBA from Manchester Business School. He's a qualified chartered accountant and a member of the Institute of Nigerian Directors, where he was recently appointed to the IT and Telecommunications Committee. Ernest, it's an honor to have you on today's panel. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot. Thank you so much. We would also have Vera. We will have, and then so we have Charles, we have Ernest, we have Vera, and Eunice. So let me quickly read. So Eunice, Honorable Eunice Thomas is also going to be on this panel. I'll let her introduce herself briefly before we go in. Success, do I have everybody on board? Please unmute their mics so that we can see them.
They're all here.
So I know Ernest is here. Ernest, thank you for joining. Okay,
all
let's
panelists,
see.
please unmute your mics. Yes, thank you.
The floor is yours, all panelists. Vera, are you here?
Oh, yes, I am.
Vera is here. Honorable Eunice is here. Charles
Thank you, Vera.
is here.
Vuyusa, can I see you? And Charles.
Am I?
And Eunice,
your
camera needs to be on. We need to see your fine face.
I'm having challenges.
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you guys loud and clear.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Amazing.
Okay, Linda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Is that Charles or is that Vuyusa?
That was Ernest.
Oh, Ernest. Nice to have you, Ernest. Okay, so I will.
Honorable Eunice, you look good.
Good to have you on board, Eunice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
So, Eunice, you have the floor. If you're not speaking, please do me a favor of muting your mic. And when the floor is yours, then you can unmute quickly and then you can talk. So the floor is going to be, I will let Eunice introduce herself quickly in a minute. I would also let Vera introduce herself in a minute. Then I will ask a question generally, which I want all of you to talk about. We'll take questions along the line from the participants around. If they have an idea, they want to start up a business and they don't know what to do. And we'll have 30 minutes for this before we call it a day. Is that okay?
Yes.
So, Eunice, the floor is yours. I want you to quickly introduce yourself.
Thank you very much.
Eunice, go ahead. Eunice, go ahead. We're waiting for you.
Sorry, so if Eunice is not, Eunice, can you hear me? The floor is yours.
Hello?
Eunice, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I wanted you to introduce yourself for a minute, please, Eunice, and then I'll have Vera next, please.
Okay, I really cannot introduce myself. I just wanted to assess me by my voice. My name is Eunice Thomas. I speak and I teach. I coach, I mentor to transform people, not to inspire them, not to motivate them, not to educate them. I actually do that to transform them. I am 46. Yes, I have a vast degree of experience in politics, in business, and in relationships. So I do all of that to help people navigate their relational challenges at home and at work. I am on a mission to discover and develop transformational leaders. That will be all for now. Time will fail me to say more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eunice. You've done better than I could have done. Thank you. I'm grateful. Please, can I have Vera for just a minute? Just tell us what you do. Just tell us who you are so that we know the kind of questions to ask you, please, Vera.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
My name is Vera Osuji. I have about 12, 13 years experience in consulting, investment banking, NGO, debt recovery, credit bureau. And presently I'm in the world of the credit bureau, and I work with the first credit bureau in Nigeria, which is Credit Registry, where I head sales and business development. I'm also a member of the Chartered Institute of Credit Management England, a member of Community Brokers Association, also a certified Scrum Master. That's basically about me. I have my master's in industrial relations and personal management from University of Lagos, then my BSc psychology.
Thank you very much, Vera. We are more than happy to have you on today's panel. So we start wasting much time. I had said earlier that our topic for today is funding your ideas and for growth and expansion. So dealing with a lot of people, we get to hear them make complaints about how, they have ideas, but they do not know what to do, where to go, and how to go about it. So today, we're trying to see how we can teach the young people out there on stuff that they can do. And if you have an idea, how do you go about moving it from just being an idea to a proper business? And if you have a small business, how do you also move it from just being a small business into a bigger business, like a global business. So we have seen that the impact of COVID-19 cannot really be estimated or talked about. You've had people lose their jobs and lose their businesses, but then for so many people who saw the future, this whole crisis has become a breakthrough for them. So you see people selling even right now across the globe. But the big challenges we have had in Nigeria and in Africa has been so many. So we've had issues with power, we've had issues with internet, we've had issues with even simple things as much as laptops and even proper good mobile phones. And a lot of people have so many complaints and issues why they cannot scale their ideas and expand it to make it bigger. But we want to look at the opportunities rather than complaints and issues today. So today we want to focus on how can we move beyond being a local market to becoming an international global market? How can it be not just for Lagos, but how can I sell to someone in the US or in the UK or in Canada, anywhere in the world? How can I build a brand that can fit into the international global markets? What do I need to have? How do I need to go about it? So these are things we're going to be discussing today. We're also going to be discussing stuffs around, do I need to have a website? Do I need to have a digital platform? Do I need to have a social media presence? How do I need to arrange myself? How do I want people to see me in terms of branding and packaging? And also, how do we want to remain in business? So I tell people one thing is to start, one thing is to remain consistent and sustainable. So today we're going to be sharing from our different perspectives and ideas how people can move, grow, and expand whatever it is that they have, whether they're a small entrepreneur, whether they're a small business, but just see how to help them. So to my first question, which we all have a right to, tackle or answer this question from the angles where we work and how we think will work. So some people are also already asking questions around financing and investment. So if you're in finance and you have access to credit, how they can get funds, then you can answer this question from that line. So my first question, so there's always a big issue with funding and finance. So what methods so firstly, I want to ask our panelists to talk about what will be a good idea. So you see people with ideas, some say I have an idea. And the honest truth is some of these ideas are really not very profitable or marketable. So the first question I would like all of you to look into will be, what would make a good idea? And then I can now go into the questions of how can we fund it, how can we use technology, and how can we expand it? So what order will I start with now? Let's see. So Eunice, I'll start with you again. Then I'll move to Vera. Then I will move to Vuyusa, Ernest, and Charles. I'll take that order.
Okay. Let me start by saying that
Eunice, are you there?
an idea. Yes, I am. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Eunice.
Okay. Now,
yes, go ahead.
First of all, you have to understand what an idea is. An idea is, first of all, a thought. It is just a thought. Nobody pays for it. Okay, you have to turn it into something more viable than just a thought. So there are two kinds of ideas. You have to know that there are two kinds of ideas. One is a creative idea. The other is an innovative idea. There are four kinds of an innovative idea. There is an extension of an existing idea. That would be the first kind of an innovative idea. The second one would be a duplication of an existing idea, of an existing innovation. The third one would be a reinvention of something that had existed, something that had been here and had been either suspended or had been ignored or had, served its time out. And then there's a synthesis of an innovative idea. If you do not understand your kind of idea, you may not be able to find an opportunity for it. Then your idea must have certain qualities.
3 to 4 qualities. The first quality is that your idea must be attractive. If you look at it and you don't like it, who buys it? If you look at it and you're the only one who likes it, who pays for it? It has to be useful. I want to ask everyone here, have you paid for something that you haven't used? Is it true that there's something, maybe your wardrobe, your home, that is just there, and every time you see it, you're like, oh, why did I even buy this? Is it something you're likely to buy again? So nobody will want to repeat a purchase of it. Now, is it timely? I mean, for you to really value or appreciate your umbrella is to come out on a rainy day. So timeliness of your idea matters a lot. Durability, sustainability. Is this your idea durable? Is it something like a face mask that's a nose mask that right after the COVID invasion we would do away with? Is it durable? Those are the things that you will want to consider. Now, how do you spot an opportunity for your idea? There are 3 ways to spot opportunities for your ideas. First of all, you have to be observant of the trends. You have to observe the trends. I mean, right now, you begin to manufacture relaxers in Nigeria, it will be a hard sell. It will be a hard, thing for me to invest in as an investor, because every woman now either wears a wig or goes natural, So relaxers won't be a quick sell for me right now. Then you have to look for a gap, fill an existing gap in the market. There's a value chain. I mean, right now we have people who want to buy food, but because there's a lockdown or the rains have come, the roads are bad and blah, blah, somebody needs a logistic man, somebody to pick the food up and deliver it somewhere. Right now, there's a problem with the number of COVID-19 tests that can be carried out in any hospital. So if I had a private test kit and I have the license to take tests, to conduct these tests, people will definitely patronize me because mine will be quicker, easier to, much more easily to access and that. Then, is it solving a particular problem? You don't want to bring something and promise me that it will do everything. You lose credibility at that point. If you have something that can do everything, I will doubt the efficacy of that product. So that is it. I don't know. Do I still have time? Do I still go on, or have I exhausted my chance?
You have 1 minute. 1 more minute.
I have 1 minute. Okay. So maybe you will have to also think about what you're building for. Is your idea, are you building it to sell? Because if it is something you want to hand down, then it may not take too much time, may not take too much work. You quickly package it and sell and go. Because I used to sell ideas at a point in my life. I was selling ideas. So somebody will come. I still sell ideas, honestly, because a certain young man came back from the UK. He was jobless and he needed to make money. So he came around and said, what do I do? I said, okay, do you see farms anywhere? Are you seeing gardens? People are planting flowers, they are planting vegetables and all. Do you see them around? He said, yes. I said, okay. Do you know poultries? Do you know where people are, are running poultry farms? He said, yes. I said, okay, go now and get the droppings, deliver them to the people who are farming, to people who are, growing vegetables, and get money from them. That way he has bought himself two buses. Okay. And now he came and said, what do I said, go and introduce liquid, go and buy a tank, add water to the droppings and fertilizer, mix everything and go now and spray the farm. So let people book and then come to you, you go prepare the soil before the plant. He's doing that, and he just told me he wants to get married. So the ideas that you can want to just sell, I sold that to him and collected money, and I'm busy, coaching him to grow the idea. I'm still making money from that idea, but I cannot own it because I've sold it out to him. Are you building your idea to own? If it is something you have to own, then you have to go through the process. You can only grow through what you go through. If it is something that you want to own, you must sit down and build it. And if you can build it for 90 days without being distracted, if you can give 12 hours to your idea for 90 days, nothing will kill it. Now, is it a legacy? Must you be the one to achieve it, or can others join you achieve it? Is it something that will save you? Alexander Graham Bell, you know, founded the telephone even when he had a wife who was deaf and dumb. So he didn't do that only for himself. He did that for us. Think about it. I don't have any more time. So thank you so much for your attention, and thank you this day for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Vera, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. So I'm looking at what makes a good idea, right? So I'm just going to be very straight to the point. For me, a great idea does not necessarily have to be totally new or revolutionary or even original. It must not be new, And what you have to know, it has to be something that you're very passionate about. So if it's something, a new concept, and you're passionate about it, that's fine. If it
Did we lose Vera, or is it me?
Yeah, I think you lost me. I'm back again. Hello,
Okay.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Vera. You
Yes.
can continue.
All right. So I said a great idea doesn't necessarily have to be totally new. Okay, so but it just has to be something you're passionate about. You have to be very passionate about it. And once you identify what the idea is, now I'm looking at it from the angle of maybe a new business, or in an existing business, you want to do something differently, and then you ask yourself, what need is this going to be meeting? Hello? So what need is my idea going to be meeting? And look at Zoom, for instance. I'm very sure that when they started, they had their plan, they saw the need, but they didn't see that there'll be a time when there'll be a pandemic and it must be a must need too, right? But at that point, they saw a need for it. So you can't come up and come up with an idea. You say you have an idea to, I'm just thinking of an example to give right now, right? You have an idea to, I don't think it's coming on top of my head, but it just there has to be a need that is going to meet. So when you meet people's needs, people are willing to pay for it. But when you're not meeting any need and the idea is just there, right? People are not going to pay for it. And also it has to be something that is measurable. So when I say measurable, you have to define what goals can this achieve. What goals am I going to achieve from this particular idea that I have? So as you move on with the idea up to the point of conceptualizing it, right? You're able to tell yourself that, okay, I'm meeting this goal, I set this goal, I'm measuring it by this goal, I'm measuring it because I've taken different steps towards this particular idea that I have. So that is what I want to say about what makes a good idea in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Vera. The floor is yours, Voyisa.
Good morning, everybody. I think the world is full of ideas. I think we all know this. Ideas, in fact, make the lowest value for any kind of opportunity that anybody is working on. In fact, to the extent that I think many people misunderstand the value of the ideas, the reality is that the truest value to any idea is created through the execution and implementation of that idea. Beyond just having an idea, it's the ability to then put together a plan and put together the action and the commitment and the time and the resources to really fully execute that idea. In an entrepreneurial endeavor, it's critically important to understand around entrepreneurship is that to truly build a business, you need to have the ability to sell a concept and transact with a customer. So again, primarily it's in developing and designing a product, which can come in the form of a physical product or a service or a digital piece of code. The context of thinking about this product is that someone needs to want and have a need and ultimately can purchase and transact and pay money in the form of currency or exchange of value or electronic money for that kind of for that particular product. So again, what's important for any young entrepreneur to understand is that getting into business and being a successful entrepreneur is really a foundational kind of commitment to taking your ideas, your thoughts, and the things that you see around you, creating value with them by putting together a structured plan to implement and execute and test these concepts with people who are willing to buy the concept. I think some examples have been made by Eunice that again are relatively relatable in that context. And I think what's vitally important for every young entrepreneur in Africa to understand is that Africa, in its context of having multiple challenges, as it was earlier identified by both Victoria and Chooks, is that in those challenges, there are opportunities to fix problems that generate revenue. And in generating revenue, it means that you have the ability to transact and take that transaction and bank that revenue. And this is where success comes. And beyond that, really the value of the idea has to lead you to action. And that's the most important thing to remember.
Thank you so much, Verisa. You've done so well. Thank you for coming on board.
Absolutely, yes.
NS, please, the floor is yours. And afterwards, I will have Charles.
Okay, good morning all. Some very good points already made, especially from Chooks and Victoria as well. Very insightful. So, they say that as an entrepreneur, you need to be flexible and be able to pivot. Well, since the previous three speakers have talked on a lot of items that I would have mentioned, I will have to be flexible and pivot. Now, one of my first bosses very early on in my career was Richard Branson. And when I worked at Virgin, and even in his book, he wrote, there are many ideas under the sun. There are no new ideas under the sun. There's no such thing as a pure original idea. There's always something that had existed before. And actually, if you look at some of the most valuable, you tend to find in most of my speeches, I have a technological bias, right? So that, given my background. And so what you find is that if you look at some of the most successful, most highly valued companies in the world today, they were not originals. Netflix was not the first that did what it did. There was actually a company that was raised, I think his name is Kozomo. They raised $250 million in the dot-com boom to deliver video content, to deliver it via CDs, via video CDs, right? But they didn't have the vision to see that the online movement could be a way of, they could do it through streaming. Now Netflix were watching, the founders were watching, and they perfected the idea, right? Now, you don't know the name of that company. I can't even remember the name of the previous company, but everybody uses Netflix. Facebook is certainly not an original. We all know Friends United, we all know Bebo. Amazon, everybody thinks that Amazon is an original. It's not an original. Barnes & Noble, who they copied, actually had an online bookstore. Apple is not an original. Google, well, Microsoft had Bing first. So the point I'm making is that when you come up with an idea, you, just like Vera said, you don't have to be an original. In fact, sometimes it's statistically proven that there are two types of companies, startups that emerge: originals, innovators, and settlers, right? Now, if you look at the track record of originals and settlers are in those people that follow, the fast followers, those that take their time to let the idea marinate, those that take the time to let the originals make the mistakes and find the gaps in those mistakes. Those are the companies that are successful. I mean, 67% of them are more successful compared to the originals, about 33%. So that's one thing I'll say about having a good idea. Another thing that I'll talk about is, particularly in Africa, is understanding when you pull your business case together, you look at your potential market. Now, there's something that we call the total addressable market. A lot of people, especially in the West, in England, in the US, they say, oh, they have 1.3 billion population, wow, untapped. Okay, that's great. But what is the total obtainable market for your business? You know, what you can obtain based upon, you know, you're fighting for food. People have got to pay for their food first. So when you're looking at your market segments, very, very important to understand what you can really obtain with your business and whether that can then, whether you can scale within that. Okay, I love what Chuk said about B2B and B2C. B2B tends to be a very business-to-business sales or business-to-business concept. You need to build that credibility. I can tell you this as somebody that's sold into MTN, into the Caribbean. When you're selling solutions or business solutions, it's a very long sales cycle. You can be on it for 18 months, and then they could reappoint the CMO that was about to sign, and then you're back to square zero. So that's something you need to think about. Your idea, it might be fantastic, but how can you execute on it? I love B2C because I don't have one boss, I have many bosses, right? I have a diversified risk portfolio. So hence being in telecommunications most of my career, you know, that wouldn't surprise you. Now, I just want to talk about the value chain as well. But Warren Buffett mentioned, he said, be greedy where others are fearful, and be fearful where others are greedy. And I really live by this concept, and it helps me identify value chains. And I suggest that entrepreneurs do the same. You see, back in I think it was the 1800s or so, somebody will correct me, when there was the big gold rush, everybody was rushing to dig for gold, looking for nuggets for gold, right? You know, the Wild West, everyone wants to make gold. But the chances of you finding a gigantic golden nuggets is very, very slim, right? But guess what? Guess who made the money? The people that sold the shovels and the axes, right? And understanding where you are in that value chain, you're looking for your niche where nobody else is looking. You know, there's money, there's so much money in different parts of the value chain which don't have the headlines. And I like those spaces because my margins are extremely high. So that when you're looking at your profitability, don't rush into where everybody else is doing exactly the same thing. Well, you can if you have an affinity for it, if you have a passion for it, but maybe move a few steps back or a few steps forward. Vertically, look at the vertical integration and see, well, if I set up shovels and I'm doing very well in this, maybe the gold company will buy my company. So, you know, then you can actually sell it out, right? But if you don't sell, you still have the opportunity of making very good margins, and it's not crowded. You know, the thing is about everybody rushes into doing the same thing because we're wired like that. That's how our minds think. So just to kind of wrap up, I just have some few points. Some have already been made. Ideas are fantastic. Strategy is brilliant. Business cases are very, very important, but execution is king. You know, if you don't execute, if you don't have the right team around you, then your idea is just going to be, somebody showed me a presentation once, and they started with ideas and business, and they showed a big graveyard with tombstones. And they said, and the question was, what does this picture tell you? And nobody answered. He said, all the ideas that died in the graveyard because they didn't really execute on those ideas. So execution is king, just as Vayusa has said. Passion is very important, right? Passion is important because when you have those rainy days like we're having right now in Nigeria, tough times, electricity issues, all sorts of challenges, it's the passion that actually makes you leads you not to give up, right? If you're really passionate about it, it's your calling, then you're more likely to see through the tough times. If it's not your passion, then you are going to give up at maybe the second hurdle, right? But I would say that having a passion for something is not, I think is maybe 75%, but I think 25% also is, you know, you don't really have to have the passion if you have very good skills around it. If you see a problem, you see a gap. I've invested in companies where I'm not particularly passionate about it. I wouldn't actually use the service, but I've seen as an entrepreneur, as a commercial guy, I've seen the opportunity and I've invested in it because I know that there's a good team there that will drive it through. You know, a bit like what Jack Ma said. He said, the 25-year-olds should make many mistakes. Just keep on churning out lots of mistakes. Jack Ma said Alibaba, the founder of Alibaba, said that he applied for 38 jobs and he got rejections from 38 jobs. When Linda read my profile, I was thinking, wow, is that me? Well, guess what? You're looking at a guy that applied to work to get a chartered accountancy trainership in the late 80s, and I got about 50 rejections, but it didn't hold me back, right? The thing is that you can have passion, but also make sure you have a team to be able to help you execute it. And if you do, then you can just pivot to other things. We have a saying, I had a saying when I was leading Virgin in the UK, hold your strong opinions loosely. Let me say that again. Hold your strong opinion about your idea loosely. What that means is you might have a very strong idea, but don't be so dogged about it, because when you get into the execution mode, you'll find that what you start with is not what you're going to end with. Hush puppies, those very famous sort of loafer shoes, they never expected it to become a giant that it became. Facebook was never invented to be what it is today. They wanted to get chicks in Harvard. That's what it was invented for. So don't hold your strong. Imagine if Zuckerberg had said, "No, I only want it to be about getting chicks," then he wouldn't be able to. He wouldn't be where he is today. And the final point I want to make is about when you do have your business, you're executing on your idea, you're emerging it. Listen to your customer. The customer is absolutely king. Amazon are fantastic at this, right? Jeff Bezos actually says, and I believe in customer-led innovation. Some businesses that I'm involved in, they don't have product roadmaps. The product roadmaps are, they look at the list of issues that have been raised by customers, what they're asking for, that is your product roadmap. You know, listen to the customer. One final thing at Amazon is, I'd like to share this, is when their key account managers go out to meet their clients, they are bonused on how much they're able to help reduce their clients' costs. So if they had 5 suites of Amazon services, for instance, and they were able to convince the customer that, look, you only need 3. Now, this is counterintuitive, right, to a salesperson. But if you are able to persuade them to use less for what they're doing, that's actually encouraged in Amazon. And guess what happens? The customer always buys more, and the customer becomes a referral beast for you in terms of referring your service elsewhere. So there's a race between which country, which company is going to become the most valuable. Is it Apple or Amazon? They're both 1.5, 1.3 trillion. My bet is on Amazon. I have no shares in Amazon. I wish I had, but I think so. That's really my point. Really, I'd like to make on what is a good idea. You know, it's you don't have to be the only one. It doesn't have to be yours. You have to open up. I mean, a lot of things have been said already, but you know, that's my piece.
Thank you so much, Ernest. You have exceeded your time. So the next question, I'm going to skip you.
I know you would.
Okay, so I have one more person before I go to the last question because time is running out. So Charles, the floor is yours. I would like you to also help us to look into what all the other speakers have been talking about in terms of idea. Charles, are you there? I hope
Yes,
I'm not leaving out
Linda,
anyone.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Charles, thank you. I can hear you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Linda. First, I'd like to say that every point that every panel speaker spoke was actually extremely valuable and very, very implementable in terms of today's entrepreneur's journey for the African entrepreneur. But I'd like to state one thing in addition to what everyone has said, and that is the aspect of networks. You see, I personally believe that you don't need to have a big amount of capital to start a business. You actually need to have an idea and a strong network. All right. So I think every entrepreneur in Africa needs to invest in their networks, because there's someone who said that your network is your net worth. And I think that as an African entrepreneur, we really, really need to invest on our network and really, really need to invest on the people around us, because those are the people who will be our clients. Those are the people who will be our investors. Those are the people who will be our team members, and those are the people who will be our board of advisors. So it's very important and very significant that African entrepreneurs invest in building real strong networks in their lives and in their life journey. And network to build relationship for a fact that one day that person who you're creating a strong relationship with might be your client. One day that person you're building a strong relationship with might be your investor. So I think that is very, very important, where the African entrepreneur needs to invest on their networks. And the second thing I like to point out, Linda, is about social media. All right. You see, nowadays, if someone wants to know everything about you, they just have to go to your social media account, and they can know what kind of a person you are, and they can consider you or not consider you for a particular opportunity. So I think African entrepreneurs need to put their ventures and what they're doing online and also in their social media handles, because when someone sees what they are doing through the social media pages, they can automatically have a sense of credibility to them, and this will create a better edge in terms of growth and development in the entrepreneurial journey. So my key point here is, let the African entrepreneur, as much as they're building their ideas, as much as they're developing their ventures, also create a significant sense in terms of building and developing their networks, because your network is your net worth. So that's my takeaway for now. I'll be brief. Thank you.
Charles, you deserve an award for keeping to time. Thank you. You've done well. Thank you so much,
Linda. I appreciate.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one more question across board so that we can have a few minutes to take questions within, from the participants, concerning their ideas and what they want to expand. We would also now have a few minutes for, I think, Charles and Ernest to talk before we end the day. So I'm trying to keep within time to make sure we end between 12 and 12:15, so we do not, stay longer than what we have said. So to my next question, I want us to quickly look at, 3 impending factors that are always affecting. I would like to draw it down to Africa per se. So African youths and, to the young people in Africa, since this is like an African forum, right? Now we have 3 issues that we always think as problems. So you have issues with the government and the rules. We have issues with access to finance. And then we also have issues with, investments. Where do I get finance? Where do I get funds from? And also, how do I also get the right talent? So we have government, talent, and finance. So I will quickly want our speakers in the same order of Eunice, Vera, Boyisa, Ernest, and Charles. And this will be just for 2 minutes each. I'll be more than happy if you do keep to time to look at these 3 things. Do we really want to see them as issues, or do we want to see them as stuff we can look at as what can even help us grow? Concerning the fact that we have similar problems across our countries, across in Africa: power, lights, rules, governments, no money, no funds, poor internet. We're all suffering from that, especially those of us in Nigeria. I'm an example. I want us to look at those 3 factors. And if I've mentioned something that you think should be or shouldn't be, please feel free to talk about it while we'll almost wrap it up and call it a day, because we're going to just take questions after now, and then we'll end this session. The floor is yours, Eunice, please.
Linda, I did not completely hear you. Your network not stable. Yep.
I'm so sorry. Eunice, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you better.
So I wanted us to quickly look at 3 things. So the government rules, access to finance, and then talent. What do we think are the major problems affecting young people or businesses in Nigeria from scaling their ideas to expansion? And what would you recommend as suggestions for them to be able to move their ideas from just being ideas into proper businesses?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to start by thanking everyone, because I'm going to borrow so much from what I've heard already. Charles tried to talk about our network, our social media, and all of that. So I want to start by saying that to build it, you must build you. To build it, you must build you. Your idea is you. Somebody first sees you before they hear you. So who are you? Who are you? You are two persons. You have an image and then you have an identity. Your image is that which you want people to see, that which you want to be known as. But your identity is who you really is, who you really are. Who you are is your identity, who you are to yourself, who you are at any point in time. And that speaks of your level of integrity. So you talk about government policies and all. If you do not participate in politics as a youth, as an entrepreneur, you will never be able to generate policies in your interest. That's for sure. Participating in politics is not supporting someone. It is by sponsoring someone or by vying for a position. Because the more voices you have in the room, the louder your matter, the louder your view, the louder your case. So if you want to see anything in your favor, you have to have people in the room who are talking in your interest. So your idea needs a sponsor, a political sponsor. Your idea needs a coach. Your idea needs a mentor. Your idea needs advisory services. Your idea needs you, your image, your integrity, your identity. Your idea needs your network. Okay. Now, finances. We are so focused on cash that we don't see money. That's the problem. Your idea can be exchanged for value, not cash. Your idea can make for a collaborative equity and a collaborative value. Your idea can actually be help for a swap. Okay, say if I want to make money as a graphics designer, I will not have to register for your event. All I need to do is design the graphics for your event. I'll sit there, you know, benefit from your knowledge and then leverage your network. So we have to look at how we can be flexible with our idea in order that we can make money from it. Mr. Ernest said something about being flexible and being able to pivot. That's the essence of entrepreneurship. That's the essence of having or wanting to grow your idea. You have to apply the law of requisite variety. You cannot be yourself. That thing that you hear, be yourself. You cannot be yourself. You are a seller. That is who to be. Then your attitude and your mindset, that is what it is about. You cannot want to do everything, achieve everything at one time. To become an entrepreneur, you first of all have got to be a self-employed individual. You don't confuse the two. Employ yourself, learn to pay yourself, learn to delay gratification, learn to do everything by yourself. Be the one to generate, your work plan. Be the one to generate your sales plan. Be the one to look at your papers. Be the one to post to do your social media post. Be the one to do everything first before you now outsource those things. Because the more knowledge you have of your idea, the better you are to explain it. The better positioned you also are to present it, to sell it, to share it. Then you must be good at communicating with people, verbally and non-verbally. You have to understand communication. For building yourself, you have to generate something called the snag effect, SNAG, stimulating neural activity for growth. That means that you have to sit down and unlearn a lot of things, learn more things, then compartmentalize this information. What do I use, at what time, where, and how? So it's a whole lot. Time will not allow us to talk about all of these things, but then you need 3 people for your idea. You need a sponsor, you need a critic, you need a cheerleader. Those are the things that you will need. Your idea will definitely finance itself, but not immediately. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eunice. You tried, but not really. Okay, so I will just quickly want us to fall into 1 or 2 minutes because we're running out of time, so that we're in time, please. Okay. So I'm going to go quickly to Vera. Vera, you have 2 minutes to look into this. What do you think is the issue, and what do you think we can do to be able to scale up? Vera, Vera, are you there?
Okay, yes,
After
I am.
Vera, have the user.
So, okay.
Vera, please unmute your mic. Are you there?
Yes, I have done that. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to be talking about funding this particular idea that you have, because a lot of times you meet young people with ideas and they tell you, I need finances. But I'm not going to be looking at the angle of you needing finances from external sources. So we're talking about bootstrapping, right? How can you build your business without external financing? You know, a lot of times right now they tell us that a business idea is equal to financing, but actually, why don't you look at a business idea equal to revenue generation, customers building, then profits? So you offer value to customers and they pay you, which is revenue, right? So, and honestly, a lot of people also tell you that I need a VC to fund an idea. You don't need so much funding to fund well, you need money, but you don't need fund from external sources with huge interest to fund your business, right? So what you should do as a entrepreneur is bootstrap into business validation. You need to validate your business. No VC will sponsor an idea that is not validated. You need to determine your product market fit yourself. So it's actually important that you stay back and go and grow your idea organically, right? You grow it organically because really most VCs are looking for ultra fast growth and very large opportunities, ultra opportunities. Another thing I also want to consider, because I want to look at it from the angle of funding, in line with my background and experience, you actually also can look at crowdfunding. So you actually have a lot of portals that offer wealth of lending opportunity for startups and entrepreneurs. You can pitch on those websites for certain investment figure and you get to have a lot of multiple investors. They actually invest small amounts towards a particular final total. You know, and unlike traditional form of financing, crowdfunding money is not paid directly. So startups may instead, you could just opt that investors, they actually opt to investors in return of service, actually, for their financial support or free sample of products. And at the end of the day, you can actually meet somebody that your idea just speaks to the person and the person just decides to contribute to the fund without asking for any reward, right? And also, it's also time, you can also consider angel investors. And for angel investors, I'm going to be sharing an experience in 2 seconds. So these actually tend to be very successful people, self-made entrepreneurs that just come together and they want to acquire lucrative share in early stage companies using their own funds. So at some point, there was time I wanted to go into agriculture, and I had my business plan, everything well drafted up, everything laid out. I did not validate that idea. Okay, I didn't determine how fit it is. It actually is in the market. Then I went to meet some group of guys at Chevron, right? With my friend that the private equity guy who used to be a colleague of mine. And these guys were so interested in my business. We talked about it. What did they want to do? They wanted to contribute money, you know, from the excess that they had to fund that business. But I may not be able to go into all that happened. But one of the things you need to know, if you get to find yourself in the midst of angel networks, right, you must be willing to trade off some things. You must be willing to trade off ownership. You must be willing to know that a lot of people will be involved in the day-to-day operation of the business, right? And then when you start this business organically, you have to think of how to grow it. You need to define your sales funnel, you need to know your strategic partners to scale. You just have to define your market profitability analysis, and you just have to make sure that that business doesn't become a dead zone. It can't be stagnant. It shouldn't be one without a future. That's my contribution to how to fund your business idea. Okay, move it from just an idea, from just a concept into a reality, into something that can start generating revenue, up to something that can become sustainable in the end. Because the goal of every entrepreneur, the goal of every business owner is that at the end of the day, your business lives after you. And for your business to live after you, you must actually grow that business. You just have to grow it. You need to grow it intentionally based on the things I've said. So just to wrap up, so I mentioned angel investors as an option. I mentioned the fact that you need to think of bootstrapping your business itself. I also mentioned that you need to consider crowdfunding as an option before you start thinking of debt from a bank that requires you to start paying immediately, because you get a loan from a bank, they want you to start paying immediately. Then I also did mention that you need to, for you to grow your business from that concept to a real entity that is self-sustaining as well. Hello? I think I'm hanging.
We are here. We can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can hear you.
All right, so for it to grow from just that a conceptualized idea to a going concern, right? You need to think of, you need to be intentional about it. You need to determine your system. You need to have your process documented. You need to determine your sales funnel. Right now, that's one of the things I do at the beginning of the year with my team, right? We determine our sales funnel. You can actually look at it from the angle of customer experience, right? You need to, your competitors can push you, they can make you or mar you. So when you're doing your market profitability analysis, you have to, that's one of the things you need to really analyze. So they can either push you to be innovative all the time, thinking on your feet, or they can take you out of business because they're more disruptive in their innovation. So I think that's in summary what I have to say. So Linda, over to you.
Thank you, Vera. You have spoken well. Thank you also for always keeping to time. I'm very grateful. Thank you. So I'm going to have
Vera is too much.
And then I will have Charles. Ernest, I'm going to skip you for now because I have another 10 minutes for you before we end today's session. So I'm going to skip
Linda.
you so that you will use more of the... Yes?
Hello, sorry. You can skip Visa as well. Just take only Charles. Visa have another presentation as well. So two of them can do presentation, right?
Okay. So Charles, the floor is yours now. After this session, I'll just have a quick recap and wrap up. Then I will have Ernest and Charles before we have the closing remarks, just to make sure we are in time. Thank you very much, Charles.
Okay, thank you so much. So I was keenly taking notes in this session, and I was digesting. But I'd like to give my perspective regarding government, talent, and teams. You see, somebody said this, that if you're not on the table, you will be the menu, all right? So I think the young entrepreneur or the
Can we hear Charles?
Is this my network?
I can't hear Charles anymore. Can anybody hear Charles?
No,
Charles, are you there?
I can't hear you, Charles.
Charles, we have a bit of issues. Can you hear us, Charles? I think he's gone off.
It's frozen.
He's gone off. He's gone off.
Yeah.
It's frozen, yes, it's frozen. So Linda,
Okay, so
summarize,
we'll
please.
just I'll have my recap quickly before Charles comes so that we don't spend too much time. I want to thank everyone quickly for your ideas. You've been amazing. It's been awesome these few 3 hours. I've learned quite a lot from,
I'm sorry, okay.
Okay, Charles, okay.
I'm sorry about that, yeah? Let me just wind it up, okay? Let me just wind it off. I'm saying we cannot all be in entrepreneurship, politics, and so on. African youth need to ask themselves, what is my position, and am I doing enough to ensure that I'm effective as possible in this position that I'm in? And I think the African youth needs to know their position, work in enhancing and ensuring that they are effective in those particular positions that they are in. And if they know their position and become effective in those positions, then we can be able to create and enhance extreme transformation in this continent and make the world a better place at large. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Charles. You have done really well. And your time consciousness is amazing. Thank you. Okay, so I was going to have a 1-minute recap so far of this session. And I'm someone really very passionate about entrepreneurship, about business, about being very creative and innovative. And I tell people, the honest truth is, if you cannot add value to where you are, where you work, which means the work you do, and you cannot show passion in it, you definitely cannot learn it overnight to have it and show it when you have your own business. It's simple logic. So some people always tell you, when I have my own business, I will do this and do that. And then we ask you, show us a track record of what you have done now with the already existing, and they have nothing to show for it. It is what you do with what you do now that determines how well you're going to do with the business or the idea. So how well, if you remember from Chooks, he said, how are you adding value to where you work? Do you come up with ideas? Do you do things? Are you early? If you can do that, then you can run a business. If you cannot do that, you can't. Now, if you also have an idea and you are not passionate and you're not innovative and creative, and you do not think, you do not have a good network, if you do not have good ideas, if you do not have connection with people, it's not going to work. There is no magic. We need to have consistency. You need to put in effort. You need to put in the time. You need to grow that idea. You need to put in the technology, the presence. Someone mentioned something about when people go online to check about you, what would they see? What are you doing? What are you writing about? What topics are you? What do people know you for, first of all? Now, if you can build these things and then you now have a business and you're telling someone to invest in it, because you have a track record, that becomes easy. But I'm not going to invest in someone that I have never seen what he can do, whether when he was working or even on his page. I don't know what you're passionate about or what you want to really do. So how am I going to give you money? So I really want to thank our speakers, concerning being intentional, going concern, sales funnel experience. I can't even name him. I have learned a lot. Thank you very much for this session. It was really, really amazing having all of you. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your efforts, your passion, your enthusiasm and zeal in making sure that, you pass the right message across in the right way, that there's hope for Africa. I don't think it's all doom. I don't think it's all negative. I'm strong that this continent is going to be great, and it can only be great with more people having this zeal and passion to do whatever they do very well. So it's not really about what you do. I tell people, it's the attitude to which you do it. How well do you do it? How do people meet you and are like, wow, I met Victoria and I never knew there was someone so passionate about agric, and she's changed my mindset a lot, and I want to own a farm. I want to, just because of it. So how will people feel when you leave them? What experience do they have about you concerning what you do and how you do is really very key. Thank you very much for this session. On this note, Ernest, you have 10 minutes. After that 10 minutes, I would also give 10 minutes to Vuyisa for your presentation. I don't know if your slide is up already. We will have 1 or 2 minutes closing remark, and we will end today's session. Please, for those listening, we'll be more than happy to have you again tomorrow from 10 to 2. It's lined up with loads of interesting and exciting speakers, also with experience and knowledge. You're going to learn a lot. And we also have different panel sessions that we're sure that will be of benefit to you. Trust me, it's going to be a time well spent. So please join us again tomorrow. Ernest, are you ready for your 10 minutes?
I'm ready. Have you got my slides up, or do you want me to share screen?
Success, yes, have we got the slides up, or do we want to share him to share his screen?
We have it, but you can also share. Let me get Brian just 1 minute. So, okay, that's it.
I've never shared screen before.
You can share his screen. It's fine. I've just go mute. Unless your time starts now. Then thank you.
Right. Have you shared my screen? I haven't shared the screen before on Zoom, so
just click on share screen, and that presentation will be up. There's a green button showing share screen.
Right.
If your presentation is up on your laptop, once you click on that button, we will see it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. In the interim, I'll try and see if I can get.
Can you see it?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Right. Okay. So everybody can see the first page, entrepreneurship in Africa, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Right. So I've got to condense this down very quickly. So a lot of things have been mentioned already, but let's talk about entrepreneurship in Africa. Micro businesses account for 99% of all enterprises. This is a known fact. It covers many sectors, every single sector. And the population of 1.3 billion, approximately 80% of that population is under the age of 30. So if you're looking at entrepreneurship being most of the, if you like, enterprises in Africa, that makes up our economy. And the population is 80% are youths. Basically, the word entrepreneurship and youth entrepreneurship are inextricably linked. They are the future. Just as Victoria said, not many 60-year-olds are going to innovate, although there are some that have, like, many others. But, the key thing is that youth and entrepreneurialism is very, very important for Africa. So success and Business Day for bringing this to the fore is very, very important. Let's just quickly look at the key drivers behind the adoption of technology. I'm a technophobe. Well, not technophobe, I'm a techno enthusiast. I believe in technology companies. I believe it will help move Africa, just as Linda was saying, from not just importing, but exporting some of our own technology outside of Africa. We've seen that M-Pesa, for instance, in Kenya is the benchmark for the world. Kenya have also invented their own version of Zoom, I think, last week. So let this become something that we can put on the platform. In fact, it was discussed at the IOD 2 weeks ago. So what are the key drivers for growth? Well, first of all, for technology adoption, number one is growth. We all need our businesses to scale. We've seen many examples already. Zoom, which as we all know, we've seen famous bloggers in Africa, payment gateways. They've all used technology to grow their business. And these are, if you like, online focused companies. If we move to the next driver for adoption of technology, it's efficiency. So technology enables you to become very efficient in managing your business. From customer care, there are so many apps, from collaboration, there are so many different aspects and apps that you can use to improve efficiency of your business, which are free. Another online issue, another driver for the adoption of technology is security. Now, online fraud is growing exponentially across the world as we become more interconnected. And having the right type of technology to protect your business, especially if you're online, if you have your customer base, is very, very important. And in fact, somebody said to me once, a leader in Deloitte, he said, anybody wanting to develop a skill right now for business should learn about cybersecurity, because it's going to be absolutely key, and it's already here. I think many of us can remember the emails that we got from our banks during the COVID lockdown that avoid scams, etc. Scams have been growing massively. Another part of the reason for adoption of technology is regulation. I'm not sure how many people are aware that Nigeria has now adopted its own version of the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation. This is very, very important about how personal data is being secured, and on various company sites, the Jumias, the Kongas, etc., banks, they all have to go through accreditation. There's a massive fine, well, not massive fine, but a large fine of 2% of your revenue, or 10 million naira, which is ever the greater. So lots of companies now in Nigeria are beginning to ensure that they have the right technology in place to ensure that their businesses are properly run, structured, and that customer information is, our private information is securely harnessed. Now, COVID-19, everybody, there's nothing that hasn't been said about COVID-19, but here's something interesting. 51% of Fortune 100 CEOs don't believe that business travel will ever return back to pre-pandemic levels. Basically, there's been a paradigm shift, and there are many other aspects. So what's happening is that you're seeing an increase in adoption of communication technology. Zoom share price has gone up by 150% since March. This is here to stay. There are many other aspects. This is just one that I pulled out. So these are the reasons why companies are adopting technology, and African companies, African SMEs, need to do the same. Moving very quickly, how are entrepreneurs using technology today? Well, if you put technology at the center, I tried to look at it in 3 dimensions. First of all, there are African companies and entrepreneurs that are using technology as the service itself. So they're involved in platform development, coding, web design, app development is really taken off, and the use of light artificial intelligence just for help. If you use Kudi.com, they use AI. So there's an industry that is growing. It's always been strong in Kenya. It's now really developing strongly in Nigeria as well. So that's technology as a service. Then you talk about technology as an enabler for digital businesses. We've seen availability of loans online, fintechs. Fintechs tend to attract most of the investments. They're the poster boy for foreign direct investment, but you're also finding that there's transportation apps, the hailing apps, gaming apps, comics as well. They're all going online, as well as e-commerce sites, which are beginning to grow massively. Paystack have now got their own e-commerce, no, Flutterwave have now got their own e-commerce site. GT Bank have done the same. So technology is really, is what businesses are using to pivot into making sure that they're sustainable in the future. And similarly for traditional businesses. So I think it was Vayusa was talking about tours. Well, guess what? You can now do physical tours, real estate. Instead of you being taken to show the property, they're now doing the real estate virtual tours. Keep Fit apps have now blown up a lot because, you know, everybody's on lockdown. And so that's an industry that has begun to really adopt technology. It was always there. It was always nascent, but COVID has really driven that up now. Telemedicine is really growing massively. I mean, most people now are doing video consultation with their doctors. I remember when it was introduced about a year ago, 2 years ago, people were reluctant to discuss their personal matters, but now, you know, necessity has meant that they do it. Social media, absolutely key about what Charles was saying. You know, it's really, really fundamental. We seem to take it for granted, but it's very important. What I would say about social media is make sure you understand your social media channel. So if you are very B2C, then you have to be on Facebook and Instagram, but some more niche B2B businesses, your audience is really on LinkedIn. So understanding the balance between them is very important. And cloud-based services, I talked a lot about in my previous conversation about Amazon. Now, so entrepreneurs, what are your next steps? Again, I'm going to pick on what Honorable Eunice had said and many other people had said as well, which is you need to assess the potential of your business or idea in the context of the new normal. This new normal is here to stay. How can you position yourself to make yourself attractive to this if you like, elusive investment that we're all seeking? You know, most investors now are looking for, even Nigerian investors, African investors are saying, okay, is it COVID proof? Because whilst COVID will be beaten, you know, if you look at the last 10 years, there's always another pandemic. So how do you make yourself pandemic or epidemic proof? This is really important. Review which aspects of your business can be used to improve technology. It's not everything that can be driven by technology. You know, you still need that front of face, that customer contact. If I just take nail parlors, for instance, you still need your nails done by a person. But what parts of your own business value chain can be adopted to a technology efficiency drive? Select the right solutions to support certain functions. But what I really mean there is that you hear a lot of things about new technology coming up, digital twins, advanced AI, blockchain. Well, guess what? All those things are great, 5G, but it's not quite here yet. But you need to make sure that, are these tools really going to help you drive your particular business? And don't get, if you like, carried away by, you know, new language, you know, the new fads that are coming out, because initially they're fads, but eventually they become adopted. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to adopt them straight away. Choose what is commensurate for your business. There are many free tools online. And like I said before, like somebody has said before, no one is an island, right? I believe that you actually do need to be you. You need to be you. You need to know what you don't know, right? I know what I don't know. And then build a good team around you. Seek guidance, seek a business advisor. You can't do it all. You know, like I said, but I do agree with the point that you do need to be the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, you need to know a bit about social media, bootstrap yourself to get going. But once you've got a viable business concept that's proven, then you definitely need to expand out, build people around you. Now, finally, these are the emerging technologies that are out there that a lot of people have heard about. And there are some examples that I won't go through every single one for time. There are examples about how they're being deployed, okay? But like I said, what we have to understand is don't get carried away with the fads. Choose what is relevant for you. Understand how you can use it in your own customer, with your own customer base. How you engage with your customer is really key. There are many CRM solutions out there that are free and simple to use and appropriate for your business. And then there are much more advanced ones. So don't be drawn into that. I find I speak to lots of people and they say, oh, do I need to include blockchain? Well, no, not yet. You know, become viable first. Right, and then blockchain will find you. So I've seen Linda smiling. I hope that's smiling for 10 marks for being on time.
You have 10 marks for being on time.
Yes. You bet.
Oh, thank
nice
you.
one.
Thank you, Ernest. So I guess my trick is working now. So people are beginning to keep to time. Ernest, you were spot on. You ended at exactly 12:10. Thank you. I'm so sorry for you, sir. Apparently, I heard you had another meeting. It was a mix-up from me. I heard you were supposed to go on first before Ernest. Please pardon me. I'm really sorry. You have your 10 minutes now so that you can go in for the next meeting, and then I will have the closing remarks and call it today. I'm so sorry.
Thanks, Linda. If the team could share my slide presentation. I'm also quite happy to allow the participants. I've shared the link on the chat box. And while that loads quickly, in presentation mode. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. While that loads, I just want to quickly say thanks to AYLES Africa, Success in the team, and to you, Linda, and the Business Day team for having had me this morning. And I do promise to keep to time, even though I was given 20 minutes for this particular presentation. You're welcome to move to the next slide. I've been asked to speak around the innovation and strategy for business growth. Again, most of the focus this morning has been on early stage startups and kicking off and starting a new business. My focus takes this a level further. And in fact, in my company, as much as I'm based in South Africa and I live here, I travel quite extensively to various parts of the continent, including Nigeria. In fact, my business, which is Hyper Group, has an active presence in Lagos. We have an office in Lekki, where we employ people in the region to look after West Africa, as well as an office in Nairobi in Kenya. So we do have quite an extensive understanding of the continent, and myself, I've traveled to over 18 countries on the continent. So I've done my fair share of championing entrepreneurship on the continent. To this effect, you're welcome to continue this discussion with us. We've created a program that's freely available for anybody on the continent to join. It's designed specifically for an African audience, and it's titled Growing Through Uncertainty. And this is a basis to which I've designed a presentation to speak to specifically to the idea around how we drive innovation and business strategy that actually builds through this period of uncertainty in our lives. Next slide, please. So again, I've broken this down. Again, there's a number of kind of key principles that one can focus on, which relate very strongly to how one goes about building a high growth business, especially on the continent in Africa. And a lot of those things have already been discussed, I think, to a great deal of extent, and a lot of very rich insights and content has been shared by the various speakers. I've specifically focused on four kind of key elements, which I'll quickly kind of touch on over the course of the next 7 minutes, just to give you guys a cool kind of core strong foundation in which to kind of accelerate your business through innovation and building on strategy and focusing on growth. What we do in our business is primarily focus on high growth and scalable businesses, and we focus on key elements around this. And to this effect, because of the current environment that we're in, we spend a lot of time thinking about how you drive innovation through the new normal. And I think it was mentioned earlier around how we all ultimately need to begin to start embracing the new normal. And we'll, I'll contextualize this in the context of innovation. Then taking this further around strategy and framing strategy, I'll speak to how you ultimately, at the core of what you do in a business, you need to focus on your customers and primarily in delighting your customers. And through this process, looking to unlock demand. And lastly, on the growth context, we want to talk very briefly around how you drive that through sustainable business models. Next slide, please. So as we go into the conversation around innovation, we do have a very simple framework in which to review it from. But I think it's vitally important that everybody understands and critically embraces the idea that innovation is the new currency for development in Africa. And really, to be perfectly honest, the right time to innovate in building up your business is absolutely now. Yes, there's a lot of uncertainty. Yes, there's a lot of difficulty in shaping up your ideas. But some of the world's best businesses were formed during the most difficult times. Again, the very platforms that, again, we take for granted and we use every day, some examples around Amazon. Amazon was formed during the difficult times of the recessions in the early 2000s, including Facebook. Facebook as well was started by Mark Zuckerberg in terms of a moderately difficult time. Yes, this COVID period is uniquely different in the sense that it's really something that's kind of got the entire world captivated and focused on a singular kind of mission. And really why this is an opportunity for a lot of entrepreneurs really is to say, what are the things that are going to emerge post this period of uncertainty that we're currently on, beyond the disease, beyond the new normal that we embrace. We know in Africa, we have a few of these advantages already. So if you think mobile first solutions, if you think digital first solutions, and this is why I think Africa has definitely an edge in how we drive innovation. And I think what's also been quite exciting, additionally to the context of this uncertainty, are developments in places like the United States and the rest of Europe, where race biases are now being directly handled. And part of this, really for me personally, I view will emerge a new acknowledgement and respect for Black founders, for African founders, and for diaspora founders. And again, a new kind of sense of innovation that will drive change and will shift mindset across the continent. Next slide, please. So as we kind of move through this, one of the things that one has to understand as you kind of go through the various phases of building a business is the foundation of any success in idea is the ability to execute and sell it to customers. And I'll speak to this from two kind of contextual levels. The first one is around strategy. And again, if you understand the basic premise of strategy, it's a plan of action designed to achieve a long-term and overall aim. Very simple. So, okay. And in there, you must highlight a few kind of critical things. One is action, two is design, and three is achieve, which speaks to intent. So the idea behind strategy is you gotta take the time to design the type of contact that you ultimately gonna have. Eunice spoke about product market fit. She also referred to minimum viable product. And a lot of these kind of things speak specifically to how you realign these particular opportunities in putting across a product that connects to customers and customers who end up purchasing it. And then linked to that, and this is a segue to the next slide, please, is how do you now drive and engage and begin to unlock the demand in the market for your particular unique set of solutions, products, or services. Again, these principles are universally applicable whether you are operating at the base of the pyramid, in a subsistence or survival business. And again, I love some of the things that Eunice mentioned as an advice to many founders, including the fact that every company needs to have an advisory service. And this is something that we ultimately insist on all the companies that we advise, is who is ultimately at your advisory, basically your kitchen cabinet, or effectively your sounding board. Who are those individuals that, again, everybody else can look not only to their talent and skills, but to their credibility in ensuring that, again, how your solution becomes better investable and more unique for people to buy into. Next slide, please. And as I conclude, I think part of the whole objective of understanding the business growth curve is also appreciating that every business flows from one phase of business development to another. And the pinnacle of this is hitting a growth spurt that allows you to align and interlink all these elements together. Where I would slightly adjust some of the feedback already received from some of the panelists is assuming that startup is ultimately a form of business. The reality of startup is that startups themselves are purely a phase of business. So every business starts off predominantly as a startup and then evolves through the business cycle and goes towards a growth spurt. And again, what allows this to be possible is effectively designed on the back of a business model. And earlier on, Chuks mentioned things like whether or not you are doing a business-to-business model, which effectively speaks to you selling specifically to other businesses, or you are doing a business-to-consumer model, which is a very difficult model to work on, which again allows you to sell directly to consumer. But obviously, there are other business models that one can effectively adopt as they drive growth in their business. For example, many countries across the continent, the government is a very effective consumer or customer. So again, a business to government model typically works well for a number of entrepreneurs across the continent. So again, all these models in a very kind of structure allow you to design the type of business, A, that you want to build, and B, the type of customer you ultimately want to attract. And as I close, next slide, I'm not going to go through the summary. I think the key kind of talking points have been mentioned. Again, primarily is about focusing on embracing the new normal. It is about thinking through how we drive innovation to create new opportunities for development and growth on the continent. It is about designing the kind of strategies and business models that allow you to move from one phase of starting your business to various other phases of starting your business. I want to wish everybody everything of the best. Thank you for having me, and hopefully you found value in my contribution. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Visa. I really haven't had someone keep to time so well. Thank you. You've done an amazing job.
Charles does. Charles does.
I'm sorry that we didn't have the 20 minutes, but you have like 13, so it's not bad. But I think really it's not really about how long, it's about how well. So you were able to really outline the important things that we really need to learn, and that's amazing. You mentioned something that I want people to go home with today, which is the new normal. So some people are expecting that COVID is going to go and we're going to go back to the past. And I've been telling them that's not going to happen anymore. This is the new way things are going to be done. So many things are going to change so fast that we might end up sitting down at the end of this year and asking, did we really used to do all those things before? Because everything now is online, you shop online, it gets to you, you're speaking to a doctor online, like Enna said, you're not going to the hospital anymore, you're buying from outside and it's getting to you quickly, you're working from home, you are sending your reports, everyone knows what you're doing, when and how. Things have changed. And this was why we really wanted to have this conference at this point in time, which is about the disruptive change. It's really true that things happen, but then sometimes some things happen and people look at the bad side. You mentioned something about the greatest ideas and the best of ideas actually coming out during crisis. And that's the truth. I tell people, it's at the point where you get to the rock bottom, you know that you had some skills and some talents that you never used before. Then you remember the ideas you had in your head 10 years ago, but you thought was impossible. Now, come to think about it, I think Vera mentioned that where she said, some of the things we're using now and the ideas that we have now working were ideas people worked on 5-10 years ago, seeing into the future. Like some people thought of Zoom and webinars and Microsoft Teams that a day is going to come when people will no longer meet each other, but have meetings virtually and have conferences virtually, and it will work. They did have problems, even the Zoom, and almost folding up when I was reading his story, but he kept on, moving on and persisting and being consistent that this is going to work until this crisis. So why some people are crying that their businesses are dying and things are going down, guys like Netflix, Zoom, Amazon are actually scaling up on the ladder of becoming the richest, top 10 richest guys from nowhere. And what was it? Was an idea that they thought about and that they felt that was going to solve a need, that was going to be a solution to a problem. And they looked into it, they developed it, and they kept it. They knew the time would come. So I want to encourage people out there who have ideas and they're scared or they're afraid how it's going to work, who's going to buy it. The same thing happened with Snapchat. No one saw the fact that Snapchat was going to be an idea that people were going to love 10 years after. In 2008 and 2009, they almost sold and almost went down because people didn't like the idea of having things on their head. But by 2012 and 2013, it became extremely trending to have different things moving on your head and having pictures. And that is how life is. So sometimes you have ideas and the time isn't right. You need to wait for the time. So you need to keep working on that idea, making sure it's good and making sure it's better. One day, people are going to jump on that idea and it's going to look like the best thing that ever happened. So do not give up. So before we end on the closing remarks, I'm going to just quickly look at what we've had today and have a quick 1 minute or two telling us, for those who joined in late, how the day has been spent. And trust me, it's been a 3 hours or 3 hours, 30 minutes well spent all through. We talked about disruptive change and the impact on the youth. We wanted to talk about solutions rather than problems, starting with Chukuma telling us how you need to have the entrepreneurial spirit to be able to move on, how you need to work. We also had Ernest, we had Vuyisa, and then we had the panel session on funding your ideas and how you can go, you need to fund it first. Are you putting things on it? Do you have your own investment in it? Do you have the passion, the right skills, the knowledge? And then, we ended with technology being the new drive, and then have to be innovative and creative. Trust me, it's been an amazing 3 hours, and I must thank everyone for their time. I want to also take Success for always consistently bringing, new ideas and bringing you together across Africa. Today has been amazing, bringing guys from South Africa, from Kenya, from across the globe, and we all sharing our knowledge and experience and people learning from us. I think that's really key. Sometimes it's not how far, it's how well. And even if we have one life here who's been impacted positively, that's a huge difference and a huge change. Tomorrow, we also have a very good, we have speakers and a good lineup for tomorrow. It's going to start from 10. We have different topics also on innovation, on starting up a business, on creativity. We have a panel around top and politics and what you need to know. It's also going to be an interesting time tomorrow. I'll be more than happy to also have you guys tune in between 10 and 2 for the different panel sessions, and speakers are going to be putting us through their presentation. What do you need to do? What kind of business can you start in this time? How do you need to grow it? Those are some of the topics we'll have tomorrow. Success, do you have anything to say before we call it a day?
Yeah. Yes, I want to especially thank everyone. I was having a discussion privately. By the way, we wanted to end this discussion today by 12:30. That's just the truth. And we're here at 12:28, and that's really amazing. So I want to especially thank everyone who responded to us, who accepted our invitation to speak on this platform. No one was paid to speak, but because you have passion to touch lives, you are here. I want to really thank you. I mean, this is a dream that started some time ago for me and for some of my friends. If somebody had told us that today, after 3 years, we'll be talking to delegates from about 18 African countries, it would have been a joke. We wouldn't have believed it at that level, but this is where we are. Like Linda said, it's been a lot of hard work, and we've tried to be consistent even in face of challenges and all that. And I want to thank you for trusting me, for trusting my team, for being here, for inspiring people. I have loads of messages from people from across the continent. I will share it tomorrow morning, first thing tomorrow morning. I have loads of messages for people, how impactful it's been. And one of the things we actually do at Africa Leadership and Economic Summit is that while you speak as a guest speaker, a lot of people are already reviewing what you are doing, telling us, oh, this is how it is, and this is how it is. And from the reports we've gotten so far, it's been amazing from everyone. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Chooks from Credit Direct, Vuyisa Rebecca from South Africa, Charles from Kenya, Mr. Ernest from the UK, Vera from Lagos, Nigeria, Linda from Lagos, Nigeria, Honorable Eunice from Uyo I want to thank everybody, that have been here so far, making this happen. And more importantly, I want to thank Mr. Brian, the head of IT, for both Business Day and IT. Thank you so much, all the participants. Tomorrow is going to be so amazing. We're going to have everybody here today, tomorrow as well. And we're going to have to do the keynote address tomorrow. Barrister Ben Francis Kafiala, he is the Anti-Corruption Commissioner in Sierra Leone. So we're looking forward to a beautiful time tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being available to inspire people today. God bless you all. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone. Have a very nice weekend. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Bye.